It started with silence, the kind that doesn't scream, doesn't rattle, doesn't punch a hole through the wall. No, this silence was worse. It was still, calculated, final. The kind of silence that settles over a battlefield after all the weapons have been dropped but before the bodies are counted. That was the silence I sat in when I found out. My wife, Sienna, my Sienna, had been sleeping with my brother, Tobias. Of all people. It wasn't even some accident she regretted. She loved him. That's what she said in the voicemail I wasn't supposed to hear. I'm tired of pretending, Tobias, she whispered, breathless. I love you. I don't want to go back to him. I must have replayed it 20 times, each repetition draining something vital out of me. I didn't throw my phone. I didn't yell. I just sat there and listened to the sound of my world cracking like glass beneath a slow, deliberate heel. I didn't confront her. Not right away. I wanted to see if she'd say it herself. She didn't. She came home that night smelling of eucalyptus and lies, tossed her bag on the couch like nothing was out of place, and kissed me like habit. Not love. Just motion. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I waited. I thought, stupidly, that maybe my family would have my back. That blood still meant something. That someone would say, what she did was unforgivable, or, you didn't deserve this, or even just, I'm sorry. But the apology never came. Instead, a texted from my mother, Corinne. I read it 3 times before it fully sank in. It's best if you don't come this year. It'll be too awkward. Awkward? For who? For the woman who ripped my heart out and handed it to my brother like a wedding gift? For the man who used to play video games in my room and steal my clothes, now stealing my wife too? Was I the problem now? I stared at my phone like it had turned into something poisonous. My thumb hovered over the screen as if I could will it to change, to say something else. Something decent. Something human. But no. Just those cold, clipped words from a woman who raised me. The silence broke the next day when my dad, Raymond, called. His voice was impatient, like he'd been waiting for me to respond, and was annoyed I hadn't. You need to stop playing the victim, he said. You were never right for her. There was a pause. I think he expected me to fight back. To beg for approval like I used to when I was 16 and trying to borrow the car. But I just let the words sink in like stones in a frozen lake. You were never right for her. It echoed in my chest, over and over, until I didn't recognize the sound of my own pulse anymore. Then Tobias called. Or maybe I called him. I honestly don't remember. All I know is I heard his voice, that smug cadence he always used when he got away with something. She chose the better man, he said. Just like that. Like this was a high school rivalry, and he'd finally won the trophy. I don't even remember what my face looked like in that moment, but I remember smiling. Bitter. Tight. The kind of smile that hurts more than any cry. You've all shown me exactly who you are, I told him. Thanks for making it easy. Then I blocked them, one by one. Deleted their numbers, their threads, their photos. It felt like surgery, cutting out a tumor you'd convinced yourself was just part of your body. Painful. Necessary. Clean. But that wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. I spent the rest of that night alone, lights off, music off, everything off. Just me and the hum of the refrigerator, the creak of the walls, the echo of memories that had nowhere to go. I looked around the apartment that Sienna and I used to decorate together, our fake little love nest. Her shoes by the door, the photo of us at the lake still framed on the hallway table. I didn't touch them. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of a dramatic scene. Let them believe I cracked. Let them think I spiraled. I didn't care. Because in that silence, between my mother's text and my father's betrayal and my brother's smirk, I found something else. Clarity. They had cast me out. Fine. Let them. But I wouldn't be the one begging to come back. I wouldn't be the one knocking on the window while they sat inside at the holiday table I helped pay for, laughing over wine and carving turkeys with hands that had stabbed me in the back. No, I would not be the ghost in their perfect family portrait. They disinvited me? Good. Because I was about to rewrite the guest list. And none of them were getting in. I packed what was left of my life into the back seat of my car. A few duffel bags. 2 boxes of clothes. My old laptop. Everything else I left behind, her jewelry on the vanity, the wine glasses we never used, the live, laugh, love, print on the wall that mocked me now. I didn't slam the door when I left. I closed it softly. Like I was afraid even the house might hear me and feel sorry. Malcolm lived 20 minutes across town. My best friend since college. We used to joke that if our lives ever blew up, We'd end up in each other's spare rooms watching bad movies and drinking cheap beer. Well, life blew up. And there I was, standing outside his apartment, heart heavy in my chest, fingers wrapped tight around the steering wheel, trying to find the strength to knock. The door opened before I could. Malcolm was already waiting, holding a coffee mug and wearing that familiar look. Half concern, half, say the word, and I'll burn the world down for you. You look like shit, he said. I feel worse. He stepped aside. Spare room's yours. No questions asked. I nodded, swallowing hard. The place smelled like cinnamon and old leather. Books stacked sideways on tables. A hoodie draped over the couch. Lived in, but safe. The kind of place where nothing unexpected happens. No betrayals. No whispered phone calls. Just the steady hum of someone who still believes in loyalty. I dropped my bags in the guest room, small, square, and spotless. A bed with clean sheets. A lamp that actually worked. No trace of my past here. Just the future I didn't know what to do with. I didn't cry. I didn't have the energy. I just collapsed onto the bed and stared at the ceiling, trying to forget the way my name had been erased from the holiday invitations. Like I was the one who broke something. The days blurred. I didn't go out much. Didn't shave. Barely ate. I lived like a ghost. I'd wake up, scroll, sleep, repeat. Social media became a daily punch to the gut. There they were, Tobias and Sienna, smiling in my parents' living room, laughing like nothing was broken. A wine bottle on the table. My mother's golden centerpiece gleaming beneath warm lights. The same table I built with my own hands. Sanded it down in my father's garage. Spent weekends measuring, varnishing, staining. My dad said, "You build this, son, and one day your kids lead at it." Now Tobias was sitting at the head, fork in one hand, Sienna on his arm like they'd always belonged. And me? I was in a spare room that didn't even have curtains. What hurt the most wasn't Sienna. It wasn't even Tobias. It was Corinne, my mother, posting pictures like I never existed, captioning one with, "Love always finds a way." She wasn't just condoning it. She was celebrating it. I'd been replaced, smudged out like a typo in the family photo album. One morning, I found myself staring at that post for 10 straight minutes. The comments section overflowed with hearts and beautiful couple, and meant to be. One of my cousins even replied, "Glad to see her with someone who treats her right." That one cut so deep I nearly dropped the phone. I thought about replying, about setting the record straight, but I didn't, because this wasn't about proving them wrong. This was about realizing the people who claimed to love me never really did. Malcolm came home that night with 2 takeout bags and a 6-pack. "You need to eat. And shower. In that order." "I'm not hungry." "Too bad. I didn't ask." We ate on the couch. Chicken wings and fries. Something about the grease and the silence made me feel human again. "You ever going to tell me what really happened?" he asked gently. I shook my head. "You already know enough." "Fair." He took a swig of beer. "But for what it's worth, you didn't deserve this." I looked at him, grateful. Not just for the words, but for the fact that he didn't follow them with, "But family is family," or "Just try to move on." He didn't try to fix it. He just sat with me in the mess. That night, I lay awake and stared at the ceiling fan turning slowly overhead. I thought about the first time Sienna met Tobias. She laughed too hard at his jokes, touched his arm when she talked. I chalked it up to friendliness. I trusted her. I trusted them all. That was my mistake. But trust isn't weakness. Betrayal is. And they were the ones who chose that path. I wasn't going to be their ghost anymore. I wasn't going to scroll through their lives like some unwanted memory. They thought I would disappear. But I wasn't done yet. I wasn't supposed to care anymore. That's what they wanted, that I'd drift off, vanish quietly, take the loss, and move on like some sad footnote in their perfect story. Tobias gets the girl. The family smiles again. The black sheep disappears into silence. But the thing about being forgotten is, it sets you free. No one sees you coming. It started on a cold Tuesday. I was sitting on Malcolm's floor, surrounded by a pile of unopened mail, eating cereal out of a coffee mug when a thought struck me. Tobias was living in that duplex. The one I co-signed. The one my parents begged me to put my name on so Tobias could get back on his feet after his 3rd failed startup. I had almost forgotten about it in the chaos. But I never signed anything without scanning a copy. And somewhere, deep in my inbox, was that contract. I searched for it, clicked through old emails, spam folders, scanned PDFs until I found it. There it was, both our names. Mine first. I was still listed as co-owner, which meant I had rights, which meant Tobias was sleeping in a house that had my name on the deed and laughing like he built it himself. I stared at that document for a long time, heartbeat ticking like a countdown clock. Then I opened a fresh note on my phone and started listing everything Sienna still owed me. We'd split expenses when we moved in together, at least, that was the plan. New couch, bed frame, rugs, even the espresso machine she insisted on and used maybe twice. I covered more than I admitted. Back then, I just wanted peace. But now, I wanted justice. Legal, cold, emotionless justice. I tallied it all. The receipts were in an old shared folder we never deleted. Stupid mistake on her part. I screenshotted every one, added the totals, created a formal invoice. $3,872.91. Not even close to the price of betrayal, but a start. That evening, I sent Malcolm a message. I'm done being quiet. He sent back a single thumbs-up emoji and a pizza order link. My kind of friend. The next day, I sent an email to my parents. Subject line, regarding property co-ownership. It read, as co-signer and co-owner of the duplex at 1436 Maple Street, I'm initiating my withdrawal from the property. You have 30 days to buy out my share or I will force a sale through legal proceedings. All communication going forward should be done through email for documentation purposes. I stared at the screen before hitting send. My finger hovered for a beat. Then I clicked. A small, quiet satisfaction bloomed in my chest. Within 5 minutes, my phone exploded. First, my mom. You can't be serious. This is Tobias's home. Then my dad. What are you trying to prove? Don't ruin this family. Even Tobias texted. You're really doing this? I didn't reply. I left them all on read. Because it wasn't about being heard anymore. It was about being felt. They'd forgotten who they were messing with. I wasn't loud. I wasn't dramatic. But I was meticulous. I played the long game. And they'd just given me the opening. Later that evening, I sent Sienna the invoice. Attached PDFs. Labeled. Itemized. Every dollar accounted for. Subject line. Outstanding balances. Formal request for payment. She replied 5 minutes later. A heart emoji. No text. No acknowledgement. Just that little red heart, like this was a joke. Like I was some ex still pining for her attention. I sat there, blinking at it. My jaw clenched. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Then I deleted the draft I had started, no emotion, no back and forth, and sent her a second email. This one wasn't friendly. This is a formal demand for payment. Failure to comply within 14 business days will result in escalation to small claims court. I attached the formal letterhead, drafted it using a free legal template. It looked serious because it was. That night, Malcolm poured us both a drink. Bourbon, neat. He raised his glass to mine. To flipping the board. I clinked it. To no more letting things go. They thought they broke me. What they really did was free me from any illusion that they ever had my back. Sienna, Tobias, my parents, they could smile in their holiday photos all they wanted. But now there'd be a paper trail. One they couldn't scrub with cute captions or fake apologies. I went to bed that night and, for the first time in weeks, slept without waking up in the middle of the night replaying their voices. I didn't dream about the betrayal. I didn't hear my mother's text or my father's judgment or Tobias's smirk. Just silence. Not the kind that follows pain, but the kind that makes room for power. They wanted me quiet. They forgot silence can roar. The morning the email landed, the sky was a dull stretch of gray, the kind that pressed on your shoulders like a weight you couldn't shake off. But me? I felt lighter. Lighter than I had in months. Because the message had been sent, and I wasn't waiting on anyone's approval anymore. Not my mother's understanding. Not my father's pride. And definitely not Tobias's permission. I took my time getting out of bed, brewed coffee slowly, poured it into a chipped mug Malcolm never replaced because it reminded him of college. I sat on the worn couch in the living room, phone resting face up on the armrest, and watched the rain tap against the window like a rhythm only I understood. It wasn't peace exactly, but it was movement. I wasn't stuck anymore. Around 9:14 a.m., my phone buzzed. Dad. I didn't answer. Then Mom. Ignored. Then Tobias. 3 messages, one after another. You're being ridiculous. Let's talk. You're really doing this? Yes, I was. I left every message on read, not out of pettiness, but out of clarity. If I had learned anything, it was that responding to people who only reach out when their comfort is threatened was a waste of breath. By noon, the phone was silent. That afternoon, I went one step further. I opened a new document and started drafting the official motion for a buyout or forced sale. I had no lawyer yet, but I wasn't bluffing. I uploaded everything to a secure cloud drive. Title, deed, proof of cosign, every receipt from our renovation. The moment they thought I was out of moves, I was already 3 ahead. At 2:07 p.m., Sienna responded to the formal invoice I'd sent her the night before. Her reply was 3 words, "You're so petty." I stared at the screen for a long beat, then typed, "Petty doesn't come with receipts." "I do." Then I attached the demand letter again, this time with a deadline clearly listed, 14 business days. No exceptions. 2 minutes later, she replied with a gif. Some actress rolling her eyes. I didn't even know which one. I didn't care. I closed the thread, took a breath, and muted her contact. This wasn't about emotional validation. It was about business, about principle, about boundaries. It was about power. And for the first time, I wasn't handing mine away. The next day, Malcolm and I were on the balcony, watching traffic crawl by and eating cold pizza from the box. He leaned against the railing and said, "You think any of them feel bad?" "No," I answered. "They feel exposed." "That's not the same thing." He nodded slowly, chewing. "Still, you're coming back harder than I expected." I didn't reply right away. My eyes traced the skyline, the way the city stretched into haze like a story still being written. Then I said, "It's not about revenge. Not really. It's about reminding them that I wasn't some ornament they could throw away when it clashed with the decor." "Poetic," he said with a smirk. "Practical," I replied. Later that night, my mother called again. This time I let it ring, just so I could hear her voice crack through voicemail. "You don't have to do this," she said. "You're not this kind of person." That part made me laugh out loud. As if being the kind of person who expected fairness, who enforced boundaries, who sent polite legal emails instead of screaming matches, somehow made me the villain. That had always been their dynamic. Twist the narrative just enough that the one who walked away looked like the problem. But this time, they couldn't twist it without tripping over the paper trail I left behind. Every forwarded receipt, every signed agreement, every polite message with timestamps and clear language. They weren't just proof. They were power plays. Paper cuts that bled real consequences. I sent a follow-up email to my father that night. It was short, simple. "Since you're so concerned about family embarrassment, I suggest moving quickly. A forced sale would become a matter of public record. You have 21 days left." No reply. Just silence. Good. By the weekend, the real estate agent I'd contacted had drafted a preliminary listing agreement. I hadn't signed yet, but I wanted them to feel the heat. I sent it to Tobias's email with a short note. "Consider this your courtesy preview." He replied within an hour. "You think you're scaring me?" I didn't respond. Because I wasn't trying to scare him. I was ending him, at least the version of him that coasted on my silence, my support, my blind spots. The version that took everything and gave nothing but smirks and betrayal in return. That Sunday, Sienna sent the first of 2 payments. Venmo, $2,000. Caption, "Happy now?" I didn't respond. The next day, she sent the remaining $1,872.91. No caption, just silence. Then she blocked me. I laughed when the app told me the transaction couldn't be replied to. Like that erased the debt. Like that undid the mess. But I didn't chase it. The money wasn't justice, but it was acknowledgement. And acknowledgement, when it came from people who tried to erase you, was almost better than an apology. That night, I sat back in Malcolm's recliner, turned off my phone, and finally let the silence settle, not as a weight, but as a shield. No phone calls. No gaslighting. No fake reconciliations wrapped in guilt. Just me. And for once, that was enough. It happened on a Thursday. Gray clouds outside, late morning. I had just stepped out of the shower when the pounding started on the door. Not a knock. Not a friendly tap. A fist. Over and over like someone was trying to break through. I froze for half a second, heart stuttering in my chest, then threw on a shirt and opened the door. Tobias. Hair disheveled. Eyes wild. Jaw clenched so tight I thought he might shatter his own teeth. And that smug little twist in his mouth he always wore when he thought he was winning? Gone. "I need to talk to you," he snapped, stepping forward like he could push his way through. Malcolm appeared from the kitchen before I could even open my mouth. "Not here, man. Back off." But Tobias wasn't here for calm. He shoved Malcolm aside hard enough to rattle the wall. and stormed into the apartment like he still had a right to something. I backed up a step, my fist instinctively clenched at my side, a quiet pulse of rage tapping in my chest. "You think this is funny?" he barked. "You think ruining my life is some kind of game?" I stared at him. "Ruining your life?" "I sent an invoice and made a legal request about a property that I co-own. If you can't handle consequences." He lunged. Not a punch, not a full-blown attack, but a shove fast and desperate and fueled by whatever bruised ego had finally burst open inside him. My back hit the edge of the table. Pain flared along my ribs. I shoved back, harder. And then Malcolm was between us, arms up, voice low but razor-sharp. "Get out. Now." Tobias's face twisted like he couldn't believe this was real, that someone wasn't bending to his tantrum. "You've always been a bitter little loser," he hissed at me, voice shaking. "Sienna saw it. Everyone sees it. You're nothing without us." I stepped forward, closer than I had before. My voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. "You mean without you?" I said. "Because I'm doing just fine. You're the one pounding on doors like a child." He sneered. "She chose the better man." I nodded slowly, letting the words hang in the air. Then I said the one thing that gutted him. "She didn't choose. She settled." Malcolm pushed him gently, but firmly toward the door. "Get out, before I call the cops." Tobias pointed a trembling finger at me. "You think this is over? You think this makes you the good guy?" "No," I said, "but it makes me free." The door slammed behind him. For a long moment, none of us moved. Malcolm let out a long breath and turned to me. "You all right? Physically?" "Yeah." "Emotionally?" I shrugged. That was overdue. He gave a short, bitter laugh. "He's not used to people saying no." I nodded. And he definitely wasn't ready for the consequences. Later that evening, I sent a message to my mother. It wasn't a warning. It was a line in the sand. "If Tobias shows up again, I will file for a restraining order. This isn't a threat. This is a promise. Control him." She replied within minutes. "Don't threaten family." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed. Then start acting like one. I didn't get a reply after that. Not for hours. When it finally came, it was vague and cold. "He's under a lot of pressure. Maybe give him some grace." Grace. That word again. Always asked of me. Never offered to me. The next day, Malcolm got a new doorbell camera installed. "You shouldn't have to live like you're waiting for the next blow-up," he said. He was right. I wasn't just dealing with a breakup or betrayal. I was dealing with a man who had spent his entire life skating by on charm and favoritism, and now he was slipping. Hard. Tobias had always been the golden boy. The one who just needed a little help. The one who had potential. The one who could lie straight to someone's face and still get handed another chance. And now, he was unraveling because the person he'd stolen from, lied to, betrayed, me, had finally stopped playing along. He had no more excuses. No more backup. No more cushion. That weekend, I got a call from an unknown number. I didn't answer. Minutes later, a voicemail came through. Sienna. Her voice was slow, deliberate, tired. "I don't know what you're trying to prove with all of this, but I hope you're happy. He's not who I thought he was. And you? Well, maybe I didn't know you either. Goodbye." I deleted the message. Because I didn't need closure from a woman who only reached out when her safety net collapsed. I wasn't her therapist. I wasn't her fallback. I was the man they underestimated. And now I was the one holding the pen. They thought I'd crumble. But Tobias was the one breaking apart. And I hadn't even really started yet. The duplex listing went live on a crisp Monday morning, tucked between family-friendly homes and overpriced condos on the agency's website. The photos were bright and professional. White walls, clean countertops, staged furniture that made it look like someone actually cared about the space. I stared at the page for a while, not because I was second-guessing the decision, but because I wanted to remember what it felt like to take control of something they thought I'd forgotten. By lunchtime, the first text rolled in. "Tobias, you can't be serious. Take the listing down." "Mom, this is humiliating." "Dad, you're destroying the family." I read them like spam. Detached, quietly satisfied. Malcolm peered over my shoulder as I scrolled. "Didn't take long. Didn't think it would. You want me to screen your text for the week?" I smiled. Tempting. Tobias called twice that afternoon. I didn't pick up. Then he sent a voice note. One I didn't bother opening. He had used his voice enough. Shouted enough. Lied enough. Now it was my turn to be the quiet one. The real estate agent called a few hours later to confirm showing times. I gave her the green light. No hesitations. No guilt. That evening, as I stepped out onto Malcolm's balcony with a cup of coffee, my phone buzzed again. Sienna. This time, a Venmo notification. $1,500. Caption. Partial. I blinked. Partial? We were past the point of partial. I had sent her the invoice weeks ago. She ignored it. Then mocked it. Then blocked me. Now she wanted to dribble pennies back into my life like that would undo the damage? A second notification followed. $2,000. Caption. Final. It wasn't the money that hit me, it was the nerve. The casual way she made it transactional. Like we were just settling a dinner bill after a bad date. I didn't reply. Didn't even open the app again that night. The funds would clear. That was enough. And yet, as I watched the city lights flicker beneath a clouded sky, a different kind of emotion stirred. Not sadness. Not rage. Closure. Not the fairy tale kind. The real kind. The kind you carve out of wreckage when no one offers it to you. The next day, my mom called. Again. I let it go to voicemail, then played it on speaker for Malcolm to hear while we made eggs. Her voice trembled, but not with remorse. With frustration. You're tearing this family apart. That property was Tobias's fresh start. You don't need the money. This is vindictive. I cracked an egg harder than necessary. Malcolm said, you should send her a fruit basket. Every time she talks, you look more like the reasonable one. I almost laughed. Almost. Later that week, the whispers started. It began with a message from cousin Denise, someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Hey. I don't know what's going on with the family, but I heard Tobias is getting kicked out. Just wanted to check on you. Check on me? Funny. But I didn't ignore it. I replied, appreciate the message. Long story short, he and Sienna betrayed me. The family chose sides. I chose peace. She didn't reply right away. Then, damn, I didn't know it was like that. Exactly. People had been fed a version of events where I was the bitter one, the angry brother who couldn't handle a breakup. But now, the narrative was shifting. Sienna had posted a moody quote about learning who your real friends are. Tobias deleted his Instagram altogether. My mom posted a picture of a wine glass and a Bible verse with the caption Faith in Trials. Meanwhile, I posted nothing. Didn't need to. Because truth doesn't need a microphone, it just waits. And eventually, it echoes. One of the neighbors near the duplex contacted the agent and asked, isn't that the house the Vance boy used to stay in? That was how I knew the story was circulating. My parents' golden castle, the illusion of the perfect family, had cracks now. And they couldn't plaster over them with smiles and wine glasses anymore. The agent told me Tobias tried to contact her directly, asked if she could slow things down. She declined. Smart woman. The showing went well. A young couple with a toddler loved the space. Said they could picture their daughter growing up there. I almost smiled at that. It wasn't just about kicking Tobias out. It was about turning something poisoned into something clean again. By the time the offer came through, full price, I didn't hesitate. I forwarded the paperwork to my parents. My dad responded first. This is madness. Then a follow-up. You were always dramatic. That word again. Always. But I was done playing the part they wrote for me. My mom finally texted me a few days later. I hope this was worth it. I didn't reply. Because it was. Tobias was losing his cushion. Sienna had paid, if only in dollars, not dignity. And I was no longer waiting for someone to rescue me from the fire. I had learned to walk through it. And now they could all feel the heat. They always said Tobias had the charm. That easy grin, the way he could walk into a room and make everyone lean in closer. It didn't matter that he never finished anything he started or that his business ventures were mostly smoke and mirrors. He looked the part, said the right things, and that was enough for them. For years, I let him wear that title, the golden boy. I let him soak up the praise while I handled the hard parts. I kept things running, cleaned up his messes, paid off his overdraft fees more than once, took the blame when things went wrong. Because he was family, because I was supposed to. But now the shine was peeling off. Fast. It started subtly. A comment under one of Sienna's old posts. Didn't she used to be engaged to his brother? Then another. Awkward much? She turned off comments the next day. Then came the whispers in the family group threads. Well, the ones I was no longer a part of. Cousin May sent me a message out of nowhere. This thing you're doing. It's making people uncomfortable. I stared at the message like it was written in another language. Uncomfortable? They weren't uncomfortable when my brother was in bed with my fiancée. They weren't uncomfortable when my parents told me to skip Christmas to keep things smooth. But now that I'd held a mirror to their betrayal, now they squirmed? I didn't respond. She followed up. You're causing a scene. So I sent her a few screenshots. The invoice I sent to Sienna. The property cosign document. The polite, legal emails I'd sent my parents and Tobias. She left me on read. Because when you show people receipts, they either shut up or show who they really are. Malcolm watched me from across the room. He was on his third coffee of the day and had this slow grin spreading across his face. You're not even saying much, he said. But somehow, you're the one flipping their world upside down. I'm not loud, I replied. I'm thorough. Tobias and Sienna, on the other hand, were cracking. Sienna's social media turned into cryptic reposts about self-care and people being threatened by your peace. Translation? She was drowning in judgment and trying to claw her way back to a narrative where she was the victim. Good luck with that. Tobias tried to throw a birthday party a few weeks later. Only a handful of people showed. And someone, I don't know who, mentioned in a comment that it was a weird look to be celebrating when you just got booted from your rent-free house. He deleted the post. Then his whole profile. I didn't celebrate. Not outwardly. But something inside me began to settle. Not in vengeance. Just in quiet vindication. They'd spent so long propped up by family illusions and filtered facades. But none of that held up against actual truth. My mom stopped posting entirely. Raymond, my father, left a voicemail on my phone. You've made your point. Now it's time to let things go. Enough's enough. I didn't respond. Because they didn't understand that this wasn't about making a point. This wasn't petty. This was me, holding people accountable. For once. Tobias had always been the son they defended, no matter what he did. The one they bailed out, the one they excused. And now, that same son had embarrassed them. Publicly. Repeatedly. And they had to sit in it. The house was gone. Sold. No more side income for my parents. No more free living for Tobias. No more holding anything over me. And with Sienna blocked on every platform that mattered, I didn't have to watch their twisted fairy tale anymore. But even without watching, I heard the cracks. Mutual friends started reaching out. One messaged me directly. Hey, I don't mean to stir stuff, but Tobias and Sienna were fighting in public the other night. Like, full-on screaming. I didn't ask for details. Didn't need them. It's what happens when two people bond over betrayal. They eventually turn on each other. Because there's no trust at the core. Just shared guilt. Another old friend, Damien, sent me a message a few days later. We hadn't talked since before the engagement blew up. Didn't want to choose sides back then, he wrote. But I respect how you've handled this. Quiet. Clear. Brutal, in the best way. I thanked him. That was enough. There were no grand declarations. No press releases. Just the slow shift of perception. People who once raised eyebrows at my silence were now beginning to understand that silence isn't weakness. It's strategy. It's composure. It's restraint with a fuse. I wasn't trying to be a hero. I wasn't trying to hurt anyone. I was just done lying down. And as Tobias and Sienna twisted in the weight of their own choices, I finally understood what it meant to reclaim your name. Not by shouting. Not by fighting. But by standing so still, the truth echoes around you. The knock on my door came at 7:42 p.m. I watched it happen through the peephole, slow and deliberate. Not angry. Not panicked. Just there. My father, standing on the other side of my apartment door, in the gray overcoat he always wore during serious conversations. His expression wasn't one of apology. It was one of performance, tight jaw, lowered eyes, rehearsed humility. Like he was about to deliver a eulogy and thought that alone would earn him grace. I didn't open the door. Not because I was afraid. Because I knew what he was there to do. Spin it. Redefine it. Rewrite it. The same way he always had, since we were kids. When Tobias stole, he was curious. When I defended myself, I was difficult. That door stayed locked because I refused to be recast in a script where I was the ungrateful one. He knocked again. 3 slow taps. Then, silence. And finally, the sound of his footsteps retreating. A few minutes later, the email started. First from my mother. Long paragraphs that looked sincere at a glance, but read like PR statements. We miss you. We didn't mean to hurt you. Tobias is going through a rough time. They used the word family like a leash. They used grace like currency they thought I owed them. I read every word like fiction. They weren't writing to me. They were writing to the image of me they wanted back, the compliant version. The one who stayed quiet. Who smoothed things over. who gave up his seat at the table so they wouldn't have to sit in discomfort. I didn't reply. That night, I made a decision. I moved out of Malcolm's place and into a one-bedroom apartment I found 2 neighborhoods over. Nothing fancy, bare walls, plain floors, just enough room to breathe. But it was mine. My name on the lease. My name on the mailbox. No family name looming over it. No past waiting in the hallway. I didn't share the address. Didn't announce the move. Didn't post a photo with a cheesy caption like "New Beginnings." I changed my number. New SIM. New service. Only Malcolm and 3 others got it. The family group chat? I never rejoined. My mother had tried adding me twice. The first time, I left immediately. The second, I blocked the number she used. They'd made their choice when they chose Tobias and Sienna. They could keep it. Let them pass the phone around the dinner table, staring at the empty icon next to my name, whispering about how cold I'd become. I wasn't cold. I was clear. One afternoon, I stopped by the coffee shop near my new place and ran into an old neighbor, Miss Darlene. She squinted at me for a second, then smiled like she'd just spotted a familiar face in a dream. "Where have you been hiding, sweetheart?" she asked. I shrugged. "Just needed some air." She nodded like she understood everything without a single detail. Then she leaned in and said something I'll never forget. "Sometimes when folks push you out, it's because they know you see too much." That sat with me all day. She was right. They didn't want me quiet because I was wrong. They wanted me quiet because I was right. Because I saw the favoritism, the double standards, the games. Because I remembered the things they conveniently forgot. Because I kept receipts. They didn't want peace. They wanted submission. But I had outgrown that version of myself. The one who internalized every insult, minimized every hurt, and called it being the bigger person. No more. My peace didn't look like forgiveness over a shared dinner. It looked like stillness. My peace was slow mornings without my phone blowing up. It was setting my own table, brewing my own coffee, eating my dinner in silence without someone telling me I should let it go. It was deleting photos without ceremony, unfollowing names that no longer meant safety, and looking in the mirror knowing I didn't need their version of closure to move forward. A week later, Malcolm came by with a bottle of wine and takeout. "You good?" he asked, watching me settle on the new couch. "Yeah," I said, and meant it. "No Tobias sightings?" "None." Guess he finally got the message. Malcolm raised a brow. "You think they'll ever really let it go?" "I don't care," I replied. "That's the difference now. I'm not living my life waiting for their version of right." He nodded. "That's growth." That night, as we sat eating in front of the TV, I felt the weight of everything that had happened. Not in a heavy way. More like something finally laying down beside me and going still. They could keep their awkward dinners, their forced smiles, their fractured stories. I had silence. And for the first time, it wasn't punishment. It was freedom. The final email from the real estate agent came on a quiet Thursday morning. The duplex had officially sold. Full asking price. The buyers, an engaged couple from out of state, were scheduled to move in by the end of the month. With that single line of text, everything shifted. The property was no longer in my name. And just like that, the last tie I had to Tobias, to the structure of false promises and family expectations, was gone. I stood in the center of my new living room. Bare floors, a borrowed couch, and a single framed photo of me and Malcolm at graduation on the shelf. No family portraits. No ghosts in gold frames. Just silence and sunlight pouring in through the half-drawn blinds. I exhaled. Tobias was out. Word traveled fast. Too fast. Within days, whispers started weaving through the family web like a crack in a frozen lake, silent, spreading, impossible to ignore. Sienna had moved back in with her sister. That much I knew from a mutual acquaintance who texted me a photo of her at a small wine bar downtown, hunched over a table with her head in her hands. No ring on her finger. No Tobias beside her. The image didn't make me feel vindicated. It just confirmed what I already knew. They'd imploded. Not because I tore them down, but because they built something with rot at the foundation. My parents tried to hold the pieces together, of course. My mother still posted the occasional filtered selfie, though no more group shots, no festive captions. Just wine glasses, candles, Bible verses about grace and unity that felt more like cries for control than reflections of faith. Then came the texts. "Mom, it's not the same without you. Dad, please. You're all we have left." I read those words more than I should have. Not because I believed them, but because I needed to understand the pattern. They didn't miss me. They missed my silence. They missed the version of me who forgave and moved on before they had to look at themselves. They missed the buffer, the scapegoat, the steady, reliable son who'd clean up messes without complaint, the emotional locksmith who always opened the door no matter how many times they slammed it in his face. But I was gone. Not geographically, not entirely emotionally, but gone in the way that matters. Gone from the illusion that blood means loyalty. Gone from the guilt that made me second-guess what I deserved. Gone from the house I once co-signed for. Now sold, emptied, keys handed over to strangers with no idea what happened there. I didn't reply to my parents. Not because I hated them, but because I no longer accepted their terms. The day the sale finalized, Malcolm invited me out to a small rooftop bar we used to frequent back when we thought 27 was old and heartbreaks still had expiration dates. The sky was purple gold, the air warm, and for once, I didn't feel like I was carrying someone else's wreckage on my back. He raised his glass. To the last nail in the coffin. I raised mine, but said nothing. Because it wasn't a celebration, not in the loud, laughing way. It was more like standing at a grave and finally feeling okay to walk away. Over the next few weeks, invitations stopped coming. Cousin birthdays, baby showers, that random, just come by the house for drinks, that used to land in my inbox like clockwork. They dried up, not because they hated me, but because I was a mirror now. And no one likes facing what they helped break. I heard through the grapevine that Tobias had moved back in with my parents. He was sleeping in the same room we shared as kids, stripped of the fake business titles and false independence. My dad told someone at work he was helping Tobias get back on his feet again. A familiar phrase. A tired loop. As for Sienna? Nothing. No messages. No calls. Just that silence that follows a hurricane. I found an old hoodie of hers while unpacking a box I'd missed. I held it for a second. It smelled like her lavender detergent. I didn't feel rage. I didn't feel longing. I just felt done. I tossed it in the donation pile without ceremony. Because that's all she was now, a past tense. A closed chapter. The best part of it all? I didn't have to explain anything anymore. Not to family. Not to friends. Not to myself. The story had unfolded on its own. The receipts were there. The photos vanished. The golden boy tarnished himself, and the parents who bet on him were left holding an empty house and a silence they never expected. They didn't collapse because of me. They collapsed because truth doesn't need to be shouted to burn everything down. Sometimes, it just waits. And when it arrives, it doesn't knock. It walks right in. Tobias is back where he started, living under the roof of the very people who once called him unstoppable. My parents never posted a photo of him returning. No captions about family first. No, we're so proud declarations. Just silence. Maybe shame. Maybe stubbornness. It didn't matter. The image was enough. The golden boy, stripped of the glow, dragging his duffel bag back into the same house where he used to lord his success over everyone else. The same house that birthed every excuse he'd ever been handed. Sienna? I haven't seen her. I don't look for her either. She could be 3 blocks away or 3 continents, and I wouldn't care. The part of me that used to flinch at the sound of her name now barely registers it. I assume she's rewriting the story somewhere, trying to make herself the heartbroken one in the version she tells over drinks to people who don't know better. It didn't work out, she probably says, because he changed. And in a way, she's right. I did change. I got tired of being predictable. As for me, I have peace. Not the dramatic, post-breakup, blast music and buy new furniture kind of peace. Real peace. Quiet mornings with coffee in my own kitchen. No phone buzzing with accusations or fake apologies. No forced family dinners. No gaslighting masquerading as concern. Just air. Just space. Just me. I wake up without the weight of needing to prove anything to anyone. I don't need their understanding anymore. Or their validation. I'm not building my days around the chance that they'll wake up and see my side of things. That's the trick they never tell you about healing. It doesn't happen when they apologize. It happens when you stop needing them to. The keys to the old duplex? Gone. The last payment from Sienna cleared and was used to furnish my new space. I bought a bookshelf, a real one. Sturdy, walnut finish, the kind that doesn't tip over at the first gust of wind. I filled it with stories that didn't end with betrayal. Stories where people stood back up. My phone, my real phone, the one with the new number, has only 6 contacts. No family. No Sienna. Just people who never needed a crisis to remember my worth. Sometimes I sit on my balcony at night with a glass of wine and think about how they wanted this to go. I wasn't supposed to survive it. Not the breakup, not the betrayal, not the exile. I was supposed to shrink, to retreat, to play the wounded, bitter man who can't move on. But instead, I became undeniable. Not in revenge, not in spite, just by refusing to vanish. They wanted me quiet, invisible, disposable, and I almost gave them that. I almost disappeared into the apology loop they'd rehearsed for years. But then I realized something. I was never the one who should have been apologizing. They were just loud. That's all. Loud and united and relentless in their demand for comfort. But comfort at my expense? Never again. People still ask, once in a while, those few who come around, do you think you'll ever talk to them again? And I smile. Not because it's funny, but because I already know the answer. No, not out of anger. Out of clarity. The thing about fire is, it shows you what was never built to last. And now that the smoke has cleared, I see them for what they were. Conditional. Convenient. Fleeting. I wasn't the victim. I was the lesson. I wasn't the discarded one. I was the mirror they couldn't look into. And when people ask, whatever happened to you and your family? I say this. They didn't lose me. They let me go. There's a difference. The last time my mother texted me, it was short. Just 6 words. Your father's birthday is next week. I stared at it for a full minute before deleting it. Because my presence isn't a switch they can flip when the guilt gets loud. I'm not a spare chair they can pull up when one of theirs breaks. I was never a placeholder. I was the builder. The one who made things work. Who bent backward to keep things whole. Who gave and gave and gave. And when I finally stopped giving, they called me cold. But what they really meant was, I stopped being convenient. And they don't know how to love people they can't use. So now, when I walk into my home, I walk in without flinching. When I sleep without waking up in anger. When I laugh, it isn't brittle. It doesn't need an audience. It doesn't need permission. They made their choice. And I made mine. So when they tell the story someday, and they will, they'll say, he just walked away. But the truth? I didn't walk. I shut the door and locked it from the outside. Permanently. I never thought I'd be the kind of man to be mocked by my own wife. But there it was, written in black and white. 3 days ago, I was sitting on the couch, scrolling through my phone while my daughter, Mia, sat beside me with her tablet. She was having trouble with an app, so she handed it over, asking me to fix it. I wasn't much of a tech expert, but I did my best, tapping through her settings, trying to figure out what was wrong. That's when I saw it, a notification at the top of the screen, a message from a group chat titled, Family Only. Normally, I wouldn't have given it a second glance, but my name was right there in the preview. Curiosity got the best of me, and I tapped on it. What I saw made my stomach twist. He's just a pushover, Callie had written. He won't do anything. Take more while you can, Bianca, her sister replied, followed by a laughing emoji. I stared at the words, my fingers tightening around the tablet. My breathing slowed, and my pulse pounded in my ears. I scrolled up, reading more of their messages. They were laughing at me, mocking me behind my back like I was some idiot too blind to see what was happening right under my nose. They weren't just talking about me, they were talking about my money. I scrolled further. House renovations I never saw happen. Emergency expenses that didn't exist. Money I had worked for, disappearing into thin air. I could feel my heart hammering against my ribs as I put the pieces together. They had been doing this for years. Callie, the woman I married, the woman I built a life with, had been treating me like a walking ATM. Her sister and their mother were right there with her, encouraging it, treating me like some fool too spineless to ever fight back. And the worst part? They were right, because I hadn't noticed. Or maybe I had, and I just didn't want to believe it. I turned my head slightly, looking toward the kitchen, where Callie was humming to herself, pouring a glass of wine like nothing in the world could touch her. Like she hadn't just spent the past few years robbing me blind and laughing about it. I glanced up at the wall where our wedding photo hung. A frozen moment in time when I thought she actually loved me. Had she ever? Or had she been calculating this from the start? My fingers curled into fists, but I didn't say anything. I didn't call her out. Instead, I just smiled, handed Mia her tablet, and left the room. Because they thought I wouldn't do anything. And that was their first mistake. I walked upstairs, my mind racing. Every step felt heavier than the last. I reached my office, shut the door behind me, and sat down at my desk, staring at the computer screen. I could feel the heat rising in my chest, but I forced myself to stay calm. Exploding in anger wouldn't change anything. No, this needed to be handled properly. I clicked open my bank accounts, my fingers flying over the keyboard. My jaw clenched tighter with every transaction I examined. Thousands of dollars. Not just on the so-called house renovations, not just on emergencies, but personal shopping, vacations, expensive gifts that I had never received. The betrayal was a slow, creeping thing, clawing its way up my spine. I had worked so hard for this family. I had done everything I could to provide, to make sure Mia had a good life, to make sure Callie never had to want for anything. And this was how they repaid me? I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. I wasn't just mad. I was done. But I wouldn't lash out. I wouldn't storm downstairs and start screaming. No, that's what they expected me to do. They thought I was predictable. They thought I was weak. They thought they could keep taking, and I would never do anything about it. That was going to change, because I was going to do something they'd never see coming. I opened my drawer, pulling out a small notebook. If I was going to play this game, I needed a strategy. Step 1. Gather evidence. Step 2. Track every single dollar. Step 3. Find out exactly what else she was hiding. Because if Callie was willing to lie about this, then what else had she been lying about? A bitter laugh bubbled in my throat. They had underestimated me, and they were about to regret that. I didn't explode. I didn't throw my laptop across the room or storm downstairs to confront Callie. That would have been too easy for her. No, if she thought I was just going to yell, maybe slam a few doors, and then get over it like some fool who didn't know better, she had another thing coming. Instead, I did something far more dangerous. I stayed quiet. I picked up my phone and called the one person I knew could help me without reacting emotionally, Griffin. He was a longtime friend, but more importantly, he was a damn good lawyer. He had seen one too many men get blindsided in divorce court, left with nothing while their wives walked away with everything. The moment he answered, I got straight to the point. I need your help, I said, my voice steady despite the anger boiling beneath the surface. It's Callie. There was a slight pause. Then, a sigh. Tell me everything. I did. I told him about the group chat, the messages, the stolen money. I told him how I had already combed through our bank records, how I had found discrepancies, money going missing under fake expenses, transactions that didn't add up. When I finished, there was silence on the other end of the line. Then, Griffin let out a low whistle. Jesus, man. This isn't just betrayal. This is financial abuse. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Financial abuse. I had read about it before. Stories of men who had been bled dry by their spouses, who only realized too late that their marriage had been nothing more than a financial transaction to the person they thought they loved. And now, that was me. I had spent years breaking my back for this family, working overtime, skipping vacations, saying no to things I wanted because I thought I was sacrificing for something greater. For us. But there was no us, was there? There was only Callie, and the people she thought she could manipulate into helping her drain me dry. My hand tightened around the phone. Tell me what to do, I said. I want this handled right. Griffin didn't hesitate. First things first. You don't let her know you're onto her, he said. You need time to gather everything. The more proof you have, the stronger your case will be when this goes to court. And trust me, it will go to court. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. What else? You need to go deeper. If she's bold enough to steal from you this openly, there's a good chance she's hiding other things. Get into every account, credit cards, joint savings, anything she has access to. You need to know exactly how much she's taken, where it's going, and if she's stashing it somewhere you don't know about. I was already pulling up our financial records before he even finished speaking. And one more thing, Griffin added. Who's the man in the black SUV? I froze. What? Mia mentioned something to me last week, he said. She was talking about her mom's friend, who visits sometimes when you're at work. She said he has a big black car. My pulse slowed, tightened. I hadn't thought much of it when Mia first mentioned it. Kids say all kinds of things, and Callie was social. She had friends, clients, people she met up with now and then. But now? Now, I wasn't so sure. A man in a black SUV, visiting while I was at work. Griffin's voice was quiet. You need to find out who he is. I swallowed the lump in my throat. I will. We hung up, and I sat there for a long moment, staring at the laptop screen. The bank records were still open, taunting me with every fraudulent charge. But now, there was something more to investigate. I opened my email and sent a request to an old friend, a forensic accountant. Someone who could dig even deeper than I could. If there was hidden money, I'd find it. Then, I went to work setting up a security camera. I placed it just outside our house, near the driveway. Small, discreet. Callie would never notice it. She had been too confident, too comfortable in her lies, to even think I'd be watching. But I was. I was watching everything. That night, when I lay beside her in bed, I didn't sleep. I listened to her steady breathing, wondering how long she had been planning this. How long she had been looking me in the eyes, kissing me, telling me she loved me, while knowing she was stealing from me. And the worst part? I still didn't know if she had ever truly loved me at all. I was up before dawn. Callie was still asleep when I slipped out of bed and made my way downstairs, checking the security feed on my phone. Nothing. Yet. By the time she woke up, I had coffee brewing. I sat at the kitchen table, pretending to scroll through the news while she walked in, yawning. She kissed my cheek like she hadn't just laughed about robbing me blind with her sister days ago. I have a busy day today, she said, pouring herself a cup. I might need to move some money around for some home repairs. The roof is starting to leak. I kept my face neutral. The roof wasn't leaking. I had the inspection report from 2 months ago. But I nodded anyway, sipping my coffee. Just let me know how much you need. Her eyes flickered, just for a second. A test. She was testing to see if I had caught on. I kept my face smooth, unreadable. She smiled. And just like that, she thought she had one. That afternoon, when I left for work, I parked my car a few blocks away and waited. And an hour later, the black SUV pulled into my driveway. My hands tightened around the steering wheel. I watched through my phone as the security camera captured everything. The man stepped out, tall and well-dressed. He looked around, cautious, but not enough. Then he walked up to my front door, used a key, and let himself inside. A key. That told me everything. This wasn't just business. This wasn't just some client or friend. This was personal. I stayed there for 2 hours. When he finally left, I zoomed in on the footage, studying his face. I didn't recognize him. But soon, I would. I exhaled slowly, my mind working through the next steps. I wasn't just dealing with a wife who had betrayed me. I was dealing with a woman who thought she could replace me. And that was something I couldn't forgive. As I drove away, one thought burned in my mind. They thought I was weak. They thought I wouldn't do anything. But they were wrong. And in 3 days, they were going to find out just how wrong they were. I woke up the next morning with a different kind of energy. Not anger, not frustration. Those emotions were too easy to waste on them. No, what I felt now was purpose, clarity. Callie thought I was a fool. She thought she had me exactly where she wanted me. Too oblivious, too trusting, too weak to notice what was happening right under my nose. But now I had the upper hand. I spent the morning as usual, going through the routine I had done 1,000 times before. I made Mia breakfast, packed her lunch, kissed her forehead, and dropped her off at school. Callie was already gone, out running one of her errands, which, if I had to guess, meant meeting him, the man in the black SUV. I had watched the security footage multiple times last night, memorizing every detail. The way he carried himself, the key he used to enter my home, the way he didn't even hesitate before stepping inside. That wasn't the behavior of someone sneaking around. No, this man was comfortable, too comfortable. I parked my car at the office, but instead of going inside, I pulled out my phone and sent the footage to Griffin. It wasn't enough to prove an affair in court just yet, but it was a damn good start. Griffin, I'll run a facial recognition scan. If he has anything public, business profiles, social media, government records, we'll find him. Good. Because once I had his name, the real game would begin. By lunchtime, I had already gathered more evidence than I ever thought possible. The forensic accountant I hired sent me a preliminary report. My stomach twisted as I read through it. Callie wasn't just siphoning money into one hidden account. She had three. One in her name, one in her sister Bianca's name, and another in his name, the black SUV man. Whoever he was, Callie wasn't just keeping him around for fun. She was funding him. I stared at the transaction history, my blood running cold. I had worked overtime, taken fewer vacations, skipped out on personal luxuries for this family. And all this time, my money had been going to some other man? My fingers tightened around my phone. Not anymore. I got the call from Griffin around 3 p.m. Got him, he said. I closed my office door and sat down, gripping my phone tight. Who is he? Mark Preston, 41. Owns a real estate firm downtown. Married, 2 kids. Married. I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. So not only was he sleeping with my wife, but he had a whole other family on the side. You have an address? 2. One is his home. The other? A condo registered under Callie's name. I closed my eyes, fighting the urge to smash something. A condo. She had bought him an entire place with my money. Send me everything, I said, my voice eerily calm. Already did. What's the plan? I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing. I let them keep thinking they've won, I said. For now. Because if Callie thought she was going to walk away from this unscathed, she had another thing coming. That night, I came home like nothing had changed. Callie was already there, standing in the kitchen, flipping through her phone. I leaned against the counter, studying her. She didn't even flinch. She was so damn sure of herself, so damn confident that I was too much of an idiot to catch on. I smiled. How was your day? She barely looked up. Busy. You know how it is. Yeah, I knew. She didn't ask about my day. She never did anymore. I glanced toward her purse, where she had her phone open to her messages. I caught a glimpse of a name, Mark. I took a sip of my drink, masking my fury. Thinking about taking a weekend trip, I said casually. Work's been stressful. Her eyes flicked up. Oh. I nodded. Yeah, maybe somewhere quiet. I saw it, the smallest hesitation, the mental calculation she was making. If I was gone for the weekend, she'd have free rein. She smiled. That sounds nice. You deserve a break. I bet I did. That night, I checked the security feed again. Mark didn't come by, but Callie was up late, texting. I already knew what about. I had one more move to make before I went to bed. I sent a message to Griffin. Pull everything on this guy's wife. I want to know exactly who she is. Because if anyone had as much to lose as me, it was her. And if Callie thought she could play me, she had no idea who she was dealing with. The deeper I dug, the worse it got. Callie wasn't just funneling money to Bianca. She was hoarding it. A separate bank account, hidden credit cards, transactions I never approved. And then came the real betrayal. Late that night, after Callie had gone to bed, I sat in my office, scrolling through her financial records. The numbers didn't lie. Over the past 2 years, more than $40,000 had disappeared from our joint account, funneled into a separate account under her name. But that wasn't what stopped me cold. It was the final set of transactions. 2 wire transfers. One to Bianca, the other to Mark Preston. I stared at the screen, my hands tightening into fists. So it wasn't just my money she was stealing. She was paying him, funding his life. I leaned back in my chair, trying to slow my breathing. This wasn't just about money anymore. This wasn't just about her laughing at me behind my back. She was planning something bigger. I clicked on another tab. Griffin had sent me the report on Mark Preston's wife. Her name was Danielle, 39, stay-at-home mom, 2 kids, ages 10 and 7. From the photos Griffin pulled, she looked like the kind of woman who had no idea her husband was living a double life. Just like I hadn't. I exhaled slowly, staring at the ceiling. I had all the proof I needed to destroy Callie in court, but I wasn't going to do that. Not yet. Because there was still one more piece of the puzzle missing. What the hell was she planning? I didn't have to wait long to find out. The next morning, Callie was already in the kitchen when I came downstairs. She was on the phone, speaking in that low, conspiratorial tone she always used when she thought I wasn't paying attention. I didn't have to guess who she was talking to. Bianca. I poured myself a cup of coffee, pretending to be oblivious. No, no, he hasn't noticed anything, she was saying. He's still clueless. I took a slow sip, watching her. Yeah, I'll move the rest by the weekend. His bonus is coming soon, so I just need to be patient a little longer. My fingers tightened around my mug. His bonus. She was waiting for my work bonus to hit before she made her final move. Then, Bianca laughed on the other end. I could hear her even from across the room. Just make sure the money's out first, Bianca said. You deserve everything after dealing with his pathetic ass. Callie laughed. I know. I mean, he's so predictable. I could tell him I needed money for anything, and he'd just hand it over like a puppy. I stared at her, my stomach twisting. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't some impulsive decision she had made out of desperation. This was premeditated. She had planned this. For years. I swallowed the bitterness in my throat and forced myself to look away, pretending I hadn't heard a thing. I let her finish her call, let her sip her coffee like nothing had changed, let her kiss me on the cheek before heading upstairs to get ready for the day. And then, I sat down at the kitchen table, staring at the steam rising from my untouched coffee. I had everything I needed, and in 24 hours, I was going to take her down. The rest of the day passed in a blur. I played my role perfectly. I acted normal, smiled when she spoke to me, laughed at the appropriate times, sent work emails like nothing was wrong. Callie was so damn confident in her scheme that she didn't even notice I had already made my move. She didn't notice that I had already filed for divorce that morning. She didn't notice that I had frozen our joint accounts. She didn't notice that I had hired a private investigator to expose Mark Preston. And she sure as hell didn't notice that I had an emergency meeting with a forensic accountant scheduled for tomorrow morning. She thought she was in control. She thought she was winning. That evening, she came downstairs, smiling like she always did when she wanted something. Hey, babe, she said sweetly, leaning against the counter. I need you to transfer $5,000 to my account. It's for a business opportunity I've been looking into. I glanced up from my laptop, feigning surprise. Business opportunity? She nodded eagerly. Yeah, it's an investment. A smart one. But I need the money today. I smiled. Of course. No problem. Her eyes sparkled with satisfaction. She had no idea. By tomorrow morning, she would wake up to find that she had nothing. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to Callie breathe beside me. She slept so peacefully, completely unaware that her entire world was about to collapse. I closed my eyes, forcing myself to stay calm. One more day, and she would finally know what it felt like to be blindsided, to be betrayed, to be the one who lost everything. The next morning, I left for work as usual, but I didn't go to the office. Instead, I met with the forensic accountant, handing over every financial document I had gathered. He assured me that by the end of the day, Callie's hidden accounts would be exposed. Then, I met with Griffin. Everything's in place? I asked. He nodded. She won't have access to a single dime by tonight. I exhaled, nodding. And Preston? I asked. Griffin smirked. His wife gets the evidence today. She's gonna love what we found. I smiled. Checkmate. That evening, I walked into the house, my pulse steady, my heart calm. Callie was already inside, sitting on the couch, her phone in her hand. The moment she saw me, her face twisted in panic. Colton, something's wrong with my bank account, she said quickly. I can't access it. Did you? I tilted my head, feigning confusion. Wrong? That's strange. Maybe you should check with the bank. Her breathing quickened. I could see the wheels turning in her head. She was realizing too late that she wasn't the one in control anymore. And then, her phone buzzed. I watched her pick it up, saw the blood drain from her face as she read whatever message had just come through. I already knew what it was. Mark Preston's wife had found out, and Callie's entire plan had just crumbled before her eyes. She looked up at me, her mouth opening, maybe to explain, maybe to beg, maybe to scream. I simply smiled. Something wrong, sweetheart? Her face twisted in horror. She knew. I won. I sat across from Callie, watching the panic spread across her face like a slow-moving storm. Her fingers trembled around her phone as she reread whatever message had just shattered her little fantasy. I already knew what it was. Mark Preston's wife had found out. I could only imagine what she had sent. Maybe a furious text demanding answers, maybe a promise to destroy them both. Maybe even a picture of Mark's packed bags thrown onto the front lawn, his perfect little home life disintegrating in real time. Callie swallowed hard, her eyes darting to me like she was trying to read my expression, trying to figure out if I had anything to do with this. I just smiled. Something wrong, sweetheart? Her mouth opened, but no words came out. She was still processing, still trying to convince herself this wasn't happening, that her carefully constructed scheme hadn't just collapsed in the span of a few hours. She cleared her throat, plastering on a shaky smile. No. Just a weird message from Bianca. Lies. Lies came so easily to her. It disgusted me. But I didn't let it show. Instead, I leaned back, stretching my arms over the back of the couch like I had all the time in the world. Oh, what about? She hesitated. Nothing important. Just family stuff. Another lie. But this time, she couldn't even make it sound convincing. Her hands were shaking. I let the silence stretch between us, letting her marinate in her own anxiety. Finally, she couldn't take it. She forced a laugh, standing up quickly. I just remembered. I need to run an errand. Of course she did. She needed to talk to Bianca, to figure out what was happening, to come up with a new plan. Too bad for her. She was out of time. I stood up as well, stretching. I'll come with you. She froze. What? I smiled. Yeah, I was thinking we could spend some time together. Just us. You're always so busy these days. Her lips parted slightly. I could see the gears turning in her head. She wanted to tell me no. She wanted to rush out and fix this mess before it got worse. But she couldn't. Because if she pushed too hard, it would look suspicious. And the last thing she needed right now was me getting suspicious. So she nodded stiffly. Sure. Let me grab my keys. As we drove, I watched her grip the steering wheel too tightly, her eyes flicking toward her phone every few seconds. She was waiting for another message. From Bianca, or Mark, or maybe even from his wife. But none came. I knew because I had already cut off every escape route. Her bank accounts were frozen. Her secret condo? Under investigation for fraud. Mark? Probably begging his wife for forgiveness while his entire world burned around him. And Bianca? She was in for her own surprise soon enough. Callie had no idea she was sitting next to the very person who had orchestrated her downfall. She cleared her throat. So, where did you want to go? I glanced at her. Oh, I figured we'd just take a drive. Maybe grab some dinner. Just talk. She nodded absently, barely hearing me. Her mind was elsewhere. Good. Let her sweat. I let her drive aimlessly for a while, letting the tension in the car build, letting her feel the weight of everything closing in. Finally, I spoke. You seemed stressed earlier. She blinked. Huh. I turned my head slightly, studying her. You seemed off, like something was bothering you. Her fingers curled around the wheel. No, just tired. Another lie. I nodded slowly. Right, tired. She chewed on her bottom lip, gripping the wheel tighter. Why do you ask? I shrugged. Just noticed you've been acting different lately. She laughed, but it was a nervous, shaky thing. I haven't changed. Same old me. I smiled. Right. She turned the car down a quiet street, finally stopping in front of a cafe. I let her step out first, watched as she hesitated, checking her phone again before finally shoving it into her pocket. She was unraveling, and I loved it. We sat across from each other in the cafe, the air between us thick with unspoken words. She fidgeted with the menu, barely looking at it. I took my time, ordered a coffee, then a sandwich. She only got a water. She wasn't hungry. She was too busy trying to figure out how to fix this. Too bad for her. It was beyond fixing. I let the silence stretch between us before speaking again. So, I said casually, how's Mark? Her head snapped up so fast she nearly knocked over her water. Her entire face drained of color. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Her throat bobbed as she swallowed. I don't know who that is, she said, voice thin. Lies. She was panicking now. I smiled. Oh, really? That's funny, because his wife definitely knows who you are. Her breath hitched. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the table. And she wasn't too happy when she found out where all his extra money was coming from. Callie's hands clenched in her lap. I don't. I cut her off. Save it, Callie. I already know everything. Silence. Utter, deafening silence. Then, her lips parted. Colton, I can explain. I held up a hand. No, you can't. She flinched. I know about the money, I said, my voice calm. The hidden accounts. The fake renovations. The fake emergencies. I know about the condo. Her eyes widened in horror. Yeah, that's right. I know. She opened her mouth again, but nothing came out. For the first time since I had discovered her betrayal, she looked scared. Good. I leaned back, watching her. And you know what the best part is? She didn't answer. I smiled. You thought I was too weak to fight back? Her breath shuddered. But guess what? I said, standing up slowly. You're done. She didn't move, didn't blink. She just sat there, completely paralyzed. I threw a few bills on the table and walked away, not bothering to look back. She had played her game. Now, it was my turn. Callie didn't follow me out of the cafe. She sat frozen at the table, her fingers clenched around the glass of water she hadn't touched, her breathing shallow. I didn't need to look back to know she was unraveling. I could feel it, the weight of her realization settling in, pressing down on her like an anvil. She wasn't in control anymore. I was. I walked to the car, unlocked it, and got in, resting my hands on the wheel. I didn't start the engine. I just sat there, waiting, and sure enough, 2 minutes later, she stumbled out of the cafe. Her steps were hurried, frantic, like she was trying to pull herself together, but failing miserably. She opened the car door and slid into the passenger seat, her hands gripping the edge of her seat so tight her knuckles turned white. I didn't look at her. I didn't need to. I could hear her swallowing back the panic, trying to steady her breath. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. Colton, please. I exhaled slowly, still gripping the wheel. Please what? She turned to me, her eyes wide, pleading. Just let me explain. I finally looked at her. Her face was pale, her bottom lip trembling, but I didn't feel pity, not even an ounce. I thought back to the messages I had read. Take more while you can. He won't do anything. Just make sure the money's out first. I thought about every dollar she had stolen, every lie she had told, every moment she had looked me in the eyes and pretended to love me while planning to ruin me. And now she wanted to explain? I let out a humorless chuckle. Go ahead. She blinked, surprised that I was actually giving her a chance to talk. She took a shaky breath. I didn't mean for it to get this far. I clenched my jaw. That's it? That's your excuse? Her hands twisted in her lap. I don't know, Colton. It just started small, and then you realized you could keep getting away with it, I finished for her. And it was easy. She didn't answer. Because she knew I was right. I let out a slow breath, tapping my fingers on the steering wheel. Tell me something, Callie. When you were laughing about me in that group chat, did you ever feel guilty? Even once? She flinched. Be honest. Her throat bobbed as she swallowed hard. No, she whispered. I nodded slowly. That's what I thought. Silence filled the car, heavy and suffocating. Finally, I turned the key in the ignition, the engine roaring to life. She tensed. Where are we going? I pulled out of the parking lot, my eyes on the road. Home. The drive back was quiet. Callie was stiff in her seat, staring out the window, probably trying to figure out her next move. But there wasn't a next move. I had already made sure of that. By the time we pulled into the driveway, it was dark. The house looked the same as always, calm, peaceful, deceiving. I stepped out of the car without a word, walking inside. She followed, her breathing uneven. The moment the door closed behind us, she turned to me, her voice shaking. Colton, please. We can fix this. I can. No. I cut her off. I can fix this. You? You're done. Her lips parted, panic flashing across her face. I walked to the kitchen, opening my laptop on the counter. I want you to sit down. She hesitated. Why? I finally looked at her. Sit down. She swallowed hard but obeyed, lowering herself into one of the chairs at the kitchen table. I turned the laptop toward her, my finger hovering over the trackpad. Do you know what this is? She blinked at the screen. It was an email, one addressed to Mark Preston's wife. Her breath hitched. I sent her everything, I said, watching her reaction. The financial records, the bank transfers, the messages between you and Bianca. Her hands flew to her mouth. No. I ignored her. She knows about the condo, about the money, about all the little games you and Mark were playing behind her back. Callie shook her head, her eyes filling with tears. Colton, you? You what? I snapped, leaning forward. Didn't think I'd actually do something? Her shoulders jerked as a sob escaped her lips. I watched her break down, but I felt nothing, because I had already given her enough of my emotions. Now, all I cared about was justice. I pulled out another envelope and slid it across the table. This is for you. She hesitated before picking it up with trembling fingers. When she opened it, her face crumpled. Divorce papers, I said coolly. I filed this morning. Her breath came out in short, desperate gasps. Please, she begged. Colton, please don't do this. I made a mistake. I tilted my head. You made a choice. She opened her mouth, but before she could say anything, her phone buzzed. She grabbed it, her hand still shaking. I already knew what it was. She had just been locked out of her accounts. Her access to my money? Gone. The condo she had bought for Mark? Being seized for fraud investigation. Her entire world was collapsing in real time, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. I stepped back, watching her unravel, watching her finally feel the weight of what she had done. You thought I was a pushover, I said quietly. You thought you could bleed me dry and walk away like it was nothing. Tears streamed down her face. Colton, I love you. I laughed. A bitter, hollow sound. No, you don't. You love money. You love power. But me? You were done with me the moment you realized I was useful for nothing but my paycheck. Her shoulders shook. Please. I'll fix this. I'll give everything back. I held up a hand, stopping her. No, you won't. I turned away from her, grabbing my keys off the counter. I'll be back tomorrow with my lawyer. Until then, I suggest you start packing. Her face twisted in shock. What? I opened the door, stepping out onto the porch. The night air was cool, crisp, refreshing. I turned back one last time, meeting her tear-filled eyes. This house, I said, voice calm. It's mine. Then I shut the door behind me, leaving her to drown in the consequences of her own choices. I didn't look back as I walked to my car. I could still hear Callie inside, her panicked sobs muffled by the walls of the house she once thought she would take from me. But that was the thing about people like her. They never thought they'd lose. They never saw the consequences coming. I slid into the driver's seat, gripping the steering wheel as I took a slow, steady breath. The reality of what I had just done settled over me. Not regret, not sadness, just relief. It was over. For the first time in years, I wasn't the one being played. I wasn't the fool sitting in the dark while my wife drained me dry, thinking she could laugh behind my back and get away with it. No, this time, I had been the one pulling the strings. And Callie? She had nothing left. I started the engine, rolling out of the driveway, leaving her alone with her shattered world. I didn't go far. I drove around for a while, needing a moment to let the adrenaline settle, to clear my head. The city lights blurred past as I replayed everything in my mind. Every lie, every stolen dollar, every little moment of deception that I had once been too blind to see. How long had she been planning this? How long had I been living in a marriage that wasn't real? The thought should have hurt, but it didn't, because now I knew the truth. And now? Now I was free. My phone buzzed in the cup holder. I glanced down. A message from Griffin. Griffin, Preston's wife, just went nuclear. You should see this. I smirked, pulling into a parking lot before tapping on the link he sent. It was a social media post. A long, angry one. Danielle Preston. To everyone who thought my husband was a good man, think again. For years, he's been stealing from our family, lying to my face, and sneaking around with a woman who thought she could replace me. Well, I hope they both enjoy being broke, because as of today, Mark has nothing. Divorce papers are filed. Locks are changed. His bank accounts? Frozen. Oh, and Callie? You might want to check your credit cards, sweetheart. I let out a low whistle. Damn, she didn't waste any time. I scrolled through the comments, her friends, her family, all offering support. Some roasting Mark and Callie for their stupidity. And then there was Mark himself, trying to comment, trying to explain. But Danielle had already blocked him. I shook my head, laughing under my breath. This was better than I ever could have planned. Callie thought she was playing a long game. She had no idea I had turned it against her. And now, she wasn't just dealing with me. She was dealing with a woman who had just had everything ripped from her. And if there was anyone angrier than me, it was Danielle. I stayed out for a few hours, letting Callie stew in her misery. By the time I got back to the house, it was past midnight. The place was dark, quiet. I stepped inside, locking the door behind me. The only light came from the living room, where Callie sat curled up on the couch, knees pulled to her chest. She looked up when she heard me, her face pale, her eyes red-rimmed and swollen from crying. She had been waiting for me. Good. I shrugged off my jacket, tossing my keys onto the counter. Callie swallowed. I didn't think you'd come back. I scoffed. It's my house. She flinched. I walked past her, heading toward the kitchen. I poured myself a glass of water, taking my time before finally turning back to face her. She sat there, staring at me, her hands clenched in her lap. How long have you known? She whispered. I took a sip of water. Long enough. She closed her eyes, exhaling shakily. I never wanted to hurt you. I let out a dry, humorless laugh. Yeah? Because from where I'm standing, it sure as hell looks like you did. She shook her head. I don't know, Colton. It started small, and then I didn't know how to stop. I leaned against the counter, watching her. That's the best excuse you've got? Tears welled up in her eyes again. I was scared. Scared of what? I snapped. Scared of me finding out? Scared of losing your cushy little lifestyle? Scared of not having Mark to fall back on? She flinched again at his name. Mark was a mistake, she whispered. I scoffed. Mark was an investment. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Because she knew I was right. I shook my head. You're only sorry because you got caught. She didn't deny it. She just sat there, staring at the floor. Her whole body slumped like she had finally run out of ways to lie, to manipulate, to twist things in her favor. For once, she had nothing left to say. And I didn't either. Not anymore. I turned, walking toward the stairs. Colton, please, she choked out. Just tell me what happens now. I paused at the foot of the staircase, glancing back at her. I already told you, I said calmly. You start packing. She sucked in a sharp breath. But what about Mia? I clenched my jaw. Mia doesn't deserve to be caught in this mess. Her eyes filled with fresh tears. I can still be a good mother. I exhaled slowly, my patience wearing thin. We'll let the court decide that. She let out a quiet sob. I turned away, taking the stairs two at a time. By tomorrow, I would have full custody papers drawn up. By next week, Callie would be out of my house. And by next month, she would be nothing more than a bad memory. She had thought she could take everything from me. She thought she could win. But now, she finally understood what it felt like to lose. The next morning, the house felt different. Not because anything had physically changed. The furniture was the same. The sun still filtered through the blinds in that soft golden way it always did. And the scent of Callie's overpriced vanilla candles still lingered in the air. But something was different. The balance of power had shifted. For the first time in years, I was the one in control. I woke up early, as I always did. But unlike the past, I didn't have to tiptoe around, worried about waking Callie or keeping up the act of a loving, oblivious husband. I moved through the house unapologetically, making my coffee, checking my emails, and finalizing the next steps with my lawyer. Callie hadn't come downstairs yet. Good. Let her stew. Let her feel the weight of her own actions. By the time she did emerge, it was past 9. She walked into the kitchen hesitantly, as if stepping into enemy territory. She looked like she hadn't slept. Her eyes were puffy, her hair unbrushed, her expression raw with stress. "Morning," I said casually, sipping my coffee. She flinched, like she hadn't expected me to acknowledge her at all. She hesitated before mumbling, "Morning?" She pulled a chair out and sat at the table, staring at her hands. The silence stretched between us, heavy and suffocating. I didn't offer her coffee, didn't ask if she had slept well. That era of my life, of catering to her, of caring about her well-being, was over. Finally, she exhaled shakily and looked up at me. "Colton, can we talk?" I tilted my head slightly. "About what?" She swallowed. "About us. About everything." I let out a slow breath, placing my coffee mug down on the counter. "Callie, there is no us anymore." She flinched. I know, but I need you to hear me out." I crossed my arms. "You had years to be honest. Now you want me to listen? After everything?" Her lips parted, but no words came out. She knew she had no defense. But still, she tried. "I was wrong," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "I know that. I let Bianca get in my head. I let greed." I cut her off with a bitter laugh. "You let yourself do this. Don't put this on Bianca. You made every single decision on your own. You chose to steal from me. You chose to humiliate me behind my back. And you chose to sleep with Mark." Her face twisted in shame. "Was it worth it?" I asked. She blinked rapidly, her throat bobbing as she swallowed back tears. "No," she said, her voice cracking. "It wasn't." I studied her carefully. For the first time since this entire nightmare began, I actually believed her. But belief didn't mean forgiveness. I exhaled slowly, rubbing my jaw. "Look, Callie, you can say whatever you want right now, but it doesn't change the fact that you're leaving this house. That's non-negotiable." Her breath hitched. "Please, Colton." "No." I cut her off sharply. "I've already given you more patience than you deserve." Her shoulders shook as she covered her face with her hands. I watched her for a moment, waiting for that last part of me, the old me, to feel bad for her. But it never came. I grabbed a folder from the counter and slid it across the table. "Here's how this is going to go," I said firmly. "You're going to pack your things. You have until the end of the week to be out." She looked up, her lips trembling. "Where am I supposed to go?" I shrugged. "Not my problem." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "What about Mia?" My expression hardened. "We'll let the court decide. But given that I have proof of financial fraud and adultery, I don't see you getting much custody." Her breath came out in short gasps, the full weight of the situation finally crushing her. This wasn't a fight she could win. She had already lost. I left her there, sobbing into her hands, and went to my office to make a call. Griffin picked up on the first ring. "Morning. How's the queen of manipulation handling her downfall?" "She's cracking," I said. He let out a satisfied hum. "Good. Everything's in place on my end. Divorce papers are officially filed, and since she no longer has access to your accounts, she won't be able to drag this out for long." I leaned back in my chair. "And Mark?" Griffin chuckled. "Mark is done. His wife didn't just freeze his accounts. She went after his business. Word's already spreading. A lot of his clients are dropping him." I smirked. Poetic justice at its finest. "Appreciate you, man," I said. "Anytime. Let me know if she tries anything." We hung up, and I sat there for a moment, staring out the window. The sun was shining. The world was moving on. And so was I. Callie didn't say much for the rest of the day. She moved through the house like a ghost, finally realizing that this wasn't a bad argument she could talk her way out of. This was real. This was happening. By the next day, she had started packing. She tried to be subtle about it. Like if she moved slowly enough, I'd suddenly change my mind. But I didn't. Each box she filled was a reminder that this house, this life, it was never hers to take. And Mia, Mia didn't deserve to see this. I had already planned for her to stay with my parents for the next week. She didn't need to hear her mother's desperate pleas or see her cry over the mess she created. This was between Callie and me. By the time the week ended, the house would finally be mine again. No more lies. No more betrayals. Just peace. I couldn't wait. The last morning Callie spent in my house was eerily quiet. I woke up before dawn, as I usually did. But for the first time in years, I didn't feel the weight of pretense hanging over me. There was no need to force small talk, no need to pretend everything was fine. Everything wasn't fine. But for once, it was exactly the way I wanted it to be. I sat at the kitchen table with my coffee, listening to the faint sounds of Callie moving around upstairs, the creak of the closet doors, the muffled thump of boxes being closed. She was packing, finally realizing that she didn't belong here anymore. Good. I had been patient. I had been more than fair. Now it was time for her to go. Mia had already left for the week. She thought she was just going to visit my parents for a few days. No need to expose her to the mess her mother had made. I wanted to make this transition as clean as possible. For her. For me. Callie? I didn't give a damn. I leaned back in my chair, sipping my coffee as I heard her footsteps coming down the stairs. She hesitated at the bottom, like she was unsure whether to enter the kitchen or not. I didn't look up. Your bags packed? I asked casually. She swallowed audibly. Yes. Silence stretched between us. I could feel her standing there, probably hoping I'd say something, anything, that would indicate I had changed my mind. That maybe, just maybe, there was a way out of this. There wasn't. I took another sip of my coffee before finally looking up. Callie was a mess. Her eyes were bloodshot from crying. Her face was pale, and her usually perfect hair was tangled from days of stress and sleepless nights. For the first time in our marriage, she looked small, defeated, but I wasn't the man she could manipulate anymore. I tilted my head. Something on your mind? She shifted, rubbing her arms. Her voice wavered. I don't know where to go. I exhaled through my nose, setting my mug down. Not my problem. Her lips trembled. Colton, please. I know I messed up, but can't we? No. Her breath hitched. I stood up, crossing my arms as I looked at her. You've had a week to figure this out, Callie. I don't care where you go. You can go stay with Bianca. You can go to a hotel. Hell, go to Mark. If his wife hasn't thrown him onto the street too. She flinched. I shook my head. But you're not staying here. Tears welled in her eyes. I don't have anywhere else. I let out a humorless chuckle. You should have thought about that before you tried to screw me over. Her hands clenched into fists. I never meant for it to go this far. I narrowed my eyes. You planned this for years, Callie. You calculated every move. The money, the condo, the lies. The only reason you're upset now is because you lost. Tears spilled over, but I felt nothing. I had already given her every emotion I had. There was nothing left for her now. She wiped her face, her shoulders trembling. You were supposed to be predictable. I let out a low chuckle. That's where you went wrong. She sniffled. Do you really hate me that much? I tilted my head, considering her words. Hate? No. Hate was too strong an emotion. And Callie wasn't worth my emotions anymore. I don't hate you, I said finally. I just don't care about you anymore. Her breath shuddered. I nodded toward the door. Your Uber will be here in 10 minutes. She hesitated. Can I at least say goodbye to Mia? I shook my head. You lost that right the moment you put money above this family. She sucked in a sharp breath, her face crumbling. I stepped back, giving her space to process it. And then, without another word, I walked past her and up the stairs. I didn't look back. 10 minutes later, I heard the door open and close. I didn't go downstairs to watch her leave. I didn't need to. I already knew she was gone. I exhaled slowly, running a hand through my hair as I sat on the edge of my bed. It was over. The weight that had been pressing down on me for years? Gone. The lies, the betrayals, the constant feeling of being used? Gone. For the first time in a long time, I felt something close to peace. I let out a slow breath, letting the quiet settle over me. And then, I smiled. Because for once, I had one. The house felt different, not just because Callie was gone, but because her presence, the weight of her lies, the suffocating betrayal that had festered in every room, had finally lifted. For the first time in years, the silence in my home wasn't filled with doubt. It wasn't filled with the echoes of whispered conversations, the subtle paranoia that something was off. This time, the silence felt good. It felt right. I stood in the doorway of the bedroom, looking around. This was mine now. Not just the house, but my life. For so long, I had been living in Callie's world. A world where I was just a stepping stone, where I existed only to fund her lifestyle, where my kindness had been mistaken for weakness. Not anymore. I took a slow, deep breath and exhaled. And then, I got to work. The first thing I did was strip the bed. I yanked off the sheets, the pillows, even the damn comforter. The thought of spending another night wrapped in the same fabric Callie had once slept in made my skin crawl. I dragged it all downstairs, tossing everything into the garbage bin outside. Then I moved to the closet. Callie had taken most of her things, but a few forgotten items still clung to the space. Hangers from her designer dresses, a perfume bottle on the top shelf, a pair of heels shoved into the corner. I didn't hesitate. Everything went into a trash bag. By the time I was finished, there was nothing left of her. No trace that she had ever called this place home. No trace that she had once stood in front of that mirror, admiring herself before walking out the door to meet him. It was mine now. All of it. After cleaning, I made a call. Griffin picked up on the first ring. "Tell me you finally slept." I smirked. "Like a baby." He chuckled. "Good. You deserve it." There was a pause before he added, "How's Callie handling the real world?" I exhaled, rubbing the back of my neck. "Not my problem anymore." "Damn right it's not." I could hear the satisfaction in his voice. This wasn't just a win. This was justice. I leaned against the counter, letting the victory settle in. "How's the legal side looking?" Griffin hummed. "Solid. With the evidence we gathered, she doesn't have a leg to stand on. Financial fraud, adultery, hell, even the forensic accountant found discrepancies with her taxes. If she even tries to come after you, she's only digging herself deeper." I smirked. "Perfect." "And Mia?" he asked. The smirk softened. "She's with my parents for now. But I'm filing for full custody." Griffin didn't hesitate. "You'll get it." I nodded, staring at the now spotless kitchen. "I know." That afternoon, I made another change. The wedding photo that had hung in the living room for years? Gone. I took it off the wall, staring at the image for a long moment. We had been happy once. At least, I thought we had been. But maybe I had been wrong about that too. Maybe Callie had never truly loved me. Maybe she had just loved what I provided. And maybe I had been too blind to see the difference. I turned the frame over and ripped the photo out, tossing it into the trash. Then, I replaced it with something else. A picture of Mia and me. A reminder of what actually mattered. That night, I sat outside on the porch, a glass of whiskey in my hand. The stars were out, the air was crisp, and for the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. No more lies. No more betrayal. No more living in the shadow of someone else's manipulation. I took a slow sip of my drink, letting the warmth spread through my chest. This wasn't just the end of my marriage. It was the beginning of something new. A life where I wasn't being used. A life where I wasn't walking on eggshells. A life where I could breathe. I smirked to myself, shaking my head. They had all underestimated me. Callie, Bianca, even Mark. They had laughed at me, thought I was weak, thought I would never fight back. And now? Now they were the ones left with nothing. I leaned back in my chair, closing my eyes for a moment. The game was over, and I had won. I stood there, frozen, gripping the handle of my suitcase so tightly my knuckles turned white. The cool air of Dallas International Airport hummed around me. Announcements blaring, children laughing, travelers rushing past. But my world had just come to a dead stop. "Why didn't you come to the airport yesterday, sweetie?" My wife's voice, soft and syrupy, slithered through the phone, wrapping around my throat like a noose. Yesterday? The word bounced around my head like a ricocheting bullet. The flight was today. I knew it was today. I had the text to prove it, the itinerary saved on my phone, the confirmation email sitting in my inbox. I had checked and rechecked. I pulled my phone from my ear, my thumb shaking as I scrolled up through our messages. Flight, 2 p.m., Saturday. Don't be late. Today was Saturday. And yet, my wife and her family had left yesterday. Without me. Deliberately. A cold realization settled deep in my stomach, curling like a snake. She lied. Not just a simple mistake. Not an accident. Not a misunderstanding. A deliberate, calculated betrayal. I glanced around the airport, my vision tunneling. Families embraced, reunited after long trips. Couples held hands, laughing as they checked their boarding passes. Friends excitedly snapped selfies, buzzing with the thrill of their upcoming adventures. And I stood in the middle of it all, alone, humiliated, discarded like an afterthought. A lump rose in my throat, but I swallowed it down, rage bubbling beneath the surface, twisting and coiling tighter with every second. She never wanted me on this trip, and now she had made sure I wasn't. I gripped the steering wheel with white-knuckled fury, my car slicing through the evening traffic as I drove home from the airport. The engine hummed beneath me, but my thoughts were louder, roaring, relentless. Laura had lied. She had planned this. Every text, every detail, every carefully chosen word in our conversations had been part of her deception. 6 years. 6 years of marriage, and this was how she treated me? I should have seen the signs. Maybe I had seen them and just ignored them, convincing myself they weren't red flags but just quirks of our marriage. Laura was always the one making plans. She claimed it was easier that way. You're too busy, Mark. I'll handle the details. And like a fool, I had let her. She loved luxury, and I had been more than willing to provide it. I worked overtime, took on side projects, and budgeted carefully, ensuring she could have the life she wanted. Expensive dinners, designer clothes, 5-star hotels, weekend getaways. Laura wanted them all, and I delivered. I had convinced myself that it was normal, that it was just how relationships worked. She took care of the social side of things, and I took care of the bills. 2 months ago, she had brought up the idea of a family vacation to Hawaii. It'll be great, babe. You work so hard. You need a break? I had agreed immediately. God, I had looked forward to it. I had needed that break more than anything. She insisted on handling the bookings. I hadn't thought twice about it. Now, sitting in the car, gripping the wheel like it was the only thing tethering me to reality, I realized the truth. She never wanted me there. I had been nothing more than a wallet, a funding source for her family's trip. A bitter laugh escaped me, dry and humorless. And I had let it happen. The ache in my chest was unbearable. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was the realization that our marriage had never really been a partnership. It had always been me giving and her taking. I pulled into our driveway, my hands still shaking as I turned off the engine. The house was quiet, empty, the porch light flickering slightly as if mocking me. I stepped inside and tossed my keys onto the table. My phone buzzed. I already knew who it was before I looked. Laura, we just landed. The resort is beautiful. Wish you were here. Wish I was there? A sharp, hollow feeling spread through my chest. She wanted me to believe this was a mistake, that it was an innocent mix-up. But I wasn't that stupid. Then, as if the universe wanted to drive the knife in deeper, another message came in. This time, it wasn't from Laura. It was from her sister, Angela. Family vacation begins. Missing you, Mark. Face blowing a kiss. Attached was a photo. There they were, Laura, her parents, her sister, lounging by the resort pool with drinks in hand, laughing, celebrating, enjoying the trip I had paid for. I stared at the screen, my vision blurring at the edges. Every ounce of trust one had left in my wife crumbled into dust. They had planned this together. They had done this on purpose. I could almost hear them laughing about it, hear Angela's smug voice telling Laura, he'll get over it. He always does. Not this time. I set my phone down, exhaling slowly, forcing my heartbeat to slow. If they thought I was going to sit here, sulking, waiting for Laura to come home and spin her lies, they were wrong. I had sacrificed everything for this marriage. My time, my money, my energy, and what had I gotten in return? Deception, humiliation, betrayal. My chest burned with anger, but beneath it, something else stirred. Clarity. For the first time in years, I saw things for what they were, and I was done. I walked to my desk, flipped open my laptop, and pulled up my bank records. The numbers stared back at me, cold and undeniable. In the last 2 years alone, I had spent over $60,000 on Laura and her family. Vacations, shopping sprees, dinners, weekend getaways, luxury items she had claimed she needed. Every penny had come from me, and I was about to shut that down. My hands moved swiftly, fueled by righteous fury. First, I called the bank and removed Laura's access to my credit cards. Then, I canceled the additional card she had under my name. Next, I logged into our joint savings account and transferred every single dollar into a new account under my name alone. By the time I was done, the bank of Mark was officially closed. I leaned back in my chair, breathing hard, my heart pounding. It was the first step, the first real step in taking my life back. Laura might think she had one. She might think I would just swallow this betrayal, accept it, and move on like I always had. But she was wrong, because she had just made the biggest mistake of her life. The next morning, I woke up to a quiet house. No sound of Laura moving around in the kitchen, no smell of coffee brewing, no faint humming of her favorite morning playlist. It was eerie how much I had grown used to her presence, even in ways I never really thought about. But now, with the weight of betrayal pressing into my chest, the silence felt like a blessing. I sat up in bed, staring at the ceiling for a moment, replaying everything that had happened. The phone call, the text messages, the photos from the trip I was never meant to be on. Then, my eyes flicked to my phone, and sure enough, she had texted me again. "Good morning, babe. Hope you're doing okay. We're heading out for a boat tour today. Miss you. Miss me." The words made my stomach churn with something between anger and disgust. She had lied, manipulated, excluded me, and now she had the audacity to act as if nothing was wrong? I clicked my phone off and set it down. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction of a reply. I had bigger things to focus on. Rolling out of bed, I grabbed my laptop from the desk and settled into the chair. I had already started taking control of my finances the night before, but there was still work to do. I opened my accounts again, scanning through every transaction, making a mental list of what had to change. Step 1. Cutting off her access completely. The credit cards were already handled, but I went a step further. I called my bank again and flagged all my accounts, ensuring no new charges could be made without my approval. Step 2. Canceling all unnecessary expenses. I went through our subscriptions, streaming services, beauty boxes, luxury gym memberships, anything that only she used. Canceled. Every single one. Step 3. Closing the last joint account. Laura had a personal checking account, but there was one joint account she still had partial access to. Not anymore. I transferred the remaining funds into my new private account and closed it permanently. By the time I finished, Laura had no financial ties to me. No more safety net. No more free ride. And I felt good. For the first time in years, I felt like I was taking back control of my life. I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. Then, as if on cue, my phone buzzed again. I picked it up, expecting another text from Laura, but it wasn't her. It was Angela, Laura's sister, the woman who had grinned into the camera in that vacation photo, drink in hand, laughing at the husband they had left behind. Her message was simple. "Hey Mark, hope you're good. Laura told me you canceled her credit card. Can you fix that? She's having trouble booking spa treatments." I stared at the screen, stunned. I had known Laura was entitled, but this was another level. She had barely been gone for one day, and she was already trying to spend my money again? I gritted my teeth, my pulse pounding. Angela had no idea that I had seen through all of it. The fake concern, the fake love, the fake marriage. And she still thought I was some gullible fool who would keep funding their nonsense. I took a deep breath and typed back, "Tell Laura to use her own money." Then I blocked Angela's number. I wasn't playing these games anymore. By the time the sun had set, I had gone the entire day without responding to Laura's texts. and I could feel it. The shift. She must have realized something was off. Because at exactly 7:45 p.m., my phone rang. Not a text. Not a casual message. A call. For a second, I debated answering. But no, I let it ring. Then another call came in, and another. Then a voicemail. I took my time before listening to it, letting her stew for a while before finally pressing play. Her voice was light, too light. Hey babe, just checking in. I tried using my card today, and there seems to be an issue. Maybe there's a glitch? Call me back when you get this. A glitch. I almost laughed. Then, 3 minutes later, another voicemail. This time, her voice was sharper. Mark, I don't know what's going on, but I really need to talk to you. Call me. No fake sweetness this time. I set my phone down and waited because I knew what was coming next. At exactly 9 p.m., another voicemail came through. This time, her voice had changed. The forced sweetness was gone. The confidence was gone. She sounded nervous. Mark, I don't know what you did, but my cards aren't working, and I can't access the savings account. Call me back right now. I exhaled, staring at my phone, letting the satisfaction settle in my chest. She was feeling it now. The reality of consequences. For 6 years, she had drained me financially, treated me like an ATM, taken advantage of my generosity. And for 6 years, I had let her. But now, she was cut off. Completely. And she was terrified. An hour and a half later, I was sitting on the couch, sipping whiskey, when the final voicemail came through. And this one was different. There was no charm, no excuses, no fake concern, just pure, unfiltered anger. What the hell did you do, Mark? You locked me out of everything. You're being ridiculous. This is our money. You don't get to just take it all. A pause. Then, a sharp exhale before she snapped. You better fix this, or I swear to God, you'll regret it. I smirked, setting my drink down. Oh, Laura. She still thought she was in control. She still thought she had power over me. But she didn't realize something crucial. For the first time in years, I was finally free. And I wasn't fixing a damn thing. The next morning, I woke up to the sun bleeding through the blinds, casting a golden glow over the room. But there was no warmth in me. I had slept like a baby, despite Laura's desperate voicemails the night before. No tossing and turning, no overthinking, no feeling like I had to fix anything. For the first time in 6 years, I wasn't a man weighed down by someone else's expectations. I was a man who had finally cut the leash. I checked my phone, and sure enough, more messages had piled up overnight. Laura had spiraled. First, she tried a different approach. Babe, I don't know what's going on, but I think someone hacked our accounts. My cards still aren't working, and the bank is saying I don't have access to the savings. Can you look into it? I'm really stressed out. I just want to enjoy this trip with my family. She was still trying to play dumb, like I hadn't just flipped the entire game on her. Then, an hour later, Mark, I just talked to the bank. You did this. Are you serious? What is wrong with you? The anger had started creeping in. I smirked and scrolled down. Then came the bargaining. Listen, babe, I get it. You're upset. I should have double-checked the flight info, and I'm really sorry about that. I swear it wasn't intentional. But why are you punishing me like this? Just unlock the accounts, and we can talk when I get back. Please. Pathetic. Then, finally, the last message she had sent just 30 minutes ago. A full meltdown. You selfish bastard. Do you have any idea what you just did? I'm out here with no money. My family is pissed at me. My mom had to cover my spa day, and she's making me feel like a child. This is humiliating. You better fix this now. I laughed. Actually laughed. Oh, the irony. She was humiliated? She had left me at the airport, lied to my face, and gone on a trip I paid for. And now, because she was forced to feel the consequences, she wanted to cry about humiliation. She hadn't even apologized for excluding me. She wasn't sorry she left me behind. She was sorry that it backfired. And I felt nothing. No guilt. No hesitation. Nothing. I got up, made a cup of coffee, and sat on the couch, feeling the peace of a man who had finally stopped being a fool, cutting the final strings. By mid-morning, I decided to take it one step further. If she thought this was bad, she hadn't seen anything yet. I pulled out my laptop, logged into my accounts, and got to work. Step 1. Closing the last joint bills. I canceled the utilities under my name. The house was mine anyway, so there was no reason she should still be linked to the payments. Step 2. Her phone bill. For years, I had paid for her phone plan. Guess what? Not anymore. I called the provider and removed her from my account, switching my plan to a single line. No more free rides. Step 3. The car. Laura drove a brand new SUV, one that I had leased under my name. She had always said, "It's basically mine since I'm the one who drives it the most." Cool. She wanted to act like it was hers? Then she could deal with the reality of paying for it. I called the dealership and had the lease transferred fully into her name. That meant monthly payments, insurance, and maintenance, all on her. By the time I was done, I had officially removed myself from every financial tie we had. Laura was on her own. The first call from her mother. Right on cue, my phone rang. Not Laura this time. Her mother. I let it ring. Then another call. Then a voicemail. I waited a few minutes before playing it, sipping my coffee like it was a damn movie. "Mark, honey, it's Joyce. I just heard about what's happening and I have to say, I'm really disappointed in you. Laura is devastated. You need to be more understanding. She didn't mean to leave you out. It was a simple mistake. You're her husband. Why would you do something so cruel to her? Please, just fix this and talk to her like an adult." I shook my head, staring at the phone in disbelief. Cruel? I was the cruel one? I had spent 6 years breaking my back to fund their luxury lifestyle, and the moment I refused to be their ATM, suddenly, I was the bad guy? I sighed and put the phone down. I wasn't explaining myself to anyone. They all thought I was weak. A man who would keep rolling over, who would keep throwing money at problems, who would keep letting Laura and her family walk all over me. Not anymore. The last straw. At exactly 3 p.m., I got another call. This time, from Laura. I answered. Silence for a moment. Then, her voice, shaky, desperate. "Mark, please, can we talk?" I let the silence stretch, then finally said, "I'm listening. I get it. Okay? I messed up. But this is too much. You've cut me off from everything. I can't even call people without Wi-Fi because you shut off my phone plan. Do you really hate me that much?" I exhaled, leaning back in my chair. "No, Laura. I don't hate you." She sounded relieved. Then I continued. "But I'm done being your idiot." A sharp intake of breath. "I want a divorce." Dead silence. Then she laughed. A forced, shaky laugh. "Come on, Mark. You're not serious." I was. I had never been more serious about anything in my life. "I've already talked to a lawyer. I'm done. When you get back, pack your things. You're moving out." The panic in her voice was instant. Wait, Mark. Let's just talk about this when I get back, okay? Let's not do anything rash." "Laura," I cut her off, my voice calm. "Enjoy the rest of your trip." Then I hung up, blocked her number. And for the first time in 6 years, I felt truly, completely free. The moment I hung up, a strange calm settled over me. It wasn't the shaky, temporary relief of dodging an argument. It was real. A deep, grounding certainty that I had done the right thing. I wasn't second-guessing myself. I wasn't wondering if I was overreacting. For the first time in my marriage, I had taken back control, and it felt damn good. I sat back in my chair, rolling my shoulders, letting the tension ease out of me. Then, like clockwork, my phone buzzed again. Not from Laura this time. Her father. I sighed, already knowing exactly how this conversation would go. I debated ignoring it, but a part of me was curious. So I answered. "Mark, son," Richard's voice came through, deep and fatherly, like he was the head of some wise old council instead of the man whose daughter had just scammed me out of thousands. "I heard about the situation. I want to talk to you man to man." I didn't respond, just let him talk. "Listen, I understand you're upset. Laura should have communicated better. But don't you think you're being a little impulsive?" I scoffed. "Impulse? Richard, your daughter stole from me. She took a trip with the money I earned, left me standing in an airport like a fool. And when I stopped letting her use me, she threw a tantrum. That's not bad communication. That's calculated betrayal. Silence on the other end. Then a sigh. Mark, son, let's be reasonable here. You're married. Marriage is about working through things, not just cutting someone off the moment things get tough. Don't you think a divorce is extreme? I let out a low chuckle, rubbing my temple. Extreme? Richard, tell me something. If Laura had been the one paying for everything, and I had left her behind at an airport while taking a luxury trip, what would you tell her? Another pause. Then, well, that's different. You're the man. You're supposed to take care of your wife. And there it was. I wasn't a husband to them. I was a provider. A walking paycheck. It was never about love, never about partnership. I was just the idiot who kept the lifestyle running. I laughed again, but this time, there was no amusement in it. Richard, let me make something clear. I was more than willing to take care of my wife. I worked my ass off to make sure she had the life she wanted. But this wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a betrayal. And I won't be married to a woman who thinks I'm nothing more than a bank account. He sighed again, his voice taking on that forced patience people use when they think they can talk you down. You're just angry, Mark. Cool off. Take a few days. Think about what you're doing. You're gonna regret this when you calm down. I shook my head. No, Richard. The only thing I regret is not waking up sooner. And then I hung up. The flood of desperation. It didn't take long before my phone started blowing up. Laura, her sister, her mother, even a few of our mutual friends started sending messages, all with the same theme. Mark, come on. You guys are perfect together. Just talk it out. Laura is devastated. She's crying her eyes out. Do you really want to throw away 6 years of marriage? Dude, I don't know what happened, but Laura said you're overreacting. Just hear her out. Overreacting. That word made my blood boil. How many times had I let my feelings take a back seat? How many times had I sucked it up and ignored the red flags? How many times had I told myself, just let it go, Mark. It's not worth the fight. But now that Laura was facing the fallout of her own choices, suddenly I was the one being too emotional. I turned my phone off and tossed it onto the couch. Let them panic. Let them beg. I had made my decision. Taking back my life. Over the next few hours, I did something I hadn't done in years. I sat down and started making plans for my future. Not our future. Not Laura's dream life. Mine. I pulled up my financials and started really looking at them. Not just checking the numbers to see if I could afford another expensive dinner or weekend getaway. No. I looked at them like a man who was reclaiming his damn life. For 6 years, my money had gone toward her dreams. Now, it was going toward mine. I started researching places I wanted to visit. Solo trips. Experiences I had never taken because I had always been too busy funding Laura's desires. I looked up hobbies I had dropped over the years. Things I had once loved but had abandoned because they didn't fit into Laura's world. And most importantly, I booked a consultation with a lawyer. Because while Laura was out in Hawaii, drinking overpriced cocktails on my dime, I was making sure that when she got back, she wouldn't have a damn thing left to take from me. The breaking point. By the time the evening rolled around, my phone was back on, sitting on the table next to me. Buzzing. Vibrating. Relentless. And then, a final voicemail from Laura. I let it sit for a moment before pressing play. Her voice came through the speaker, shaking. Not angry this time. Scared. Mark, please. I'm sorry. Okay? I know I screwed up. I shouldn't have done this, but I was just trying to have a good time with my family. I never meant to hurt you. Can we just talk? I don't want to lose you. I stared at the phone. It was too late. She wasn't sorry she did it. She was sorry she got caught. I deleted the voicemail. Then, without hesitation, I blocked her number. And as I leaned back, sipping my drink, letting the quiet settle over me, I realized something. For the first time in 6 years, I was truly, completely free. The moment I hung up, a strange calm settled over me. It wasn't the shaky, temporary relief of dodging an argument. It was real. A deep, grounding certainty that I had done the right thing. I wasn't second-guessing myself. I wasn't wondering if I was overreacting. For the first time in my marriage, I had taken back control, and it felt damn good. I sat back in my chair, rolling my shoulders, letting the tension ease out of me. Then, like clockwork, my phone buzzed again. Not from Laura this time. Her father. I sighed, already knowing exactly how this conversation would go. I debated ignoring it, but a part of me was curious. So I answered. "Mark, son," Richard's voice came through, deep and fatherly, like he was the head of some wise old council instead of the man whose daughter had just scammed me out of thousands. "I heard about the situation. I want to talk to you man to man." I didn't respond, just let him talk. "Listen, I understand you're upset. Laura should have communicated better. But don't you think you're being a little impulsive?" I scoffed. "Impulse? Richard, your daughter stole from me. She took a trip with the money I earned, left me standing in an airport like a fool, and when I stopped letting her use me, she threw a tantrum. That's not bad communication. That's calculated betrayal." Silence on the other end. Then a sigh. "Mark, son, let's be reasonable here. You're married. Marriage is about working through things, not just cutting someone off the moment things get tough. Don't you think a divorce is extreme?" I let out a low chuckle, rubbing my temple. "Extreme? Richard, tell me something. If Laura had been the one paying for everything, and I had left her behind at an airport while taking a luxury trip, what would you tell her?" Another pause. Then, "Well, that's different. You're the man. You're supposed to take care of your wife." And there it was. I wasn't a husband to them. I was a provider. A walking paycheck. It was never about love, never about partnership. I was just the idiot who kept the lifestyle running. I laughed again, but this time, there was no amusement in it. "Richard, let me make something clear. I was more than willing to take care of my wife. I worked my ass off to make sure she had the life she wanted. But this wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a betrayal. And I won't be married to a woman who thinks I'm nothing more than a bank account." He sighed again, his voice taking on that forced patience people use when they think they can talk you down. "You're just angry, Mark. Cool off. Take a few days. Think about what you're doing. You're gonna regret this when you calm down." I shook my head. "No, Richard. The only thing I regret is not waking up sooner." And then I hung up. The flood of desperation. It didn't take long before my phone started blowing up. Laura, her sister, her mother. Even a few of our mutual friends started sending messages, all with the same theme. "Mark, come on. You guys are perfect together. Just talk it out." Laura is devastated. She's crying her eyes out. "Do you really want to throw away 6 years of marriage?" "Dude, I don't know what happened, but Laura said you're overreacting. Just hear her out." Overreacting. That word made my blood boil. How many times had I let my feelings take a back seat? How many times had I sucked it up and ignored the red flags? How many times had I told myself, "Just let it go, Mark. It's not worth the fight." But now that Laura was facing the fallout of her own choices, suddenly I was the one being too emotional. I turned my phone off and tossed it onto the couch. Let them panic. Let them beg. I had made my decision. Taking back my life. Over the next few hours, I did something I hadn't done in years. I sat down and started making plans for my future. Not our future. Not Laura's dream life. Mine. I pulled up my financials and started really looking at them. Not just checking the numbers to see if I could afford another expensive dinner or weekend getaway. No. I looked at them like a man who was reclaiming his damn life. For 6 years, my money had gone toward her dreams. Now, it was going toward mine. I started researching places I wanted to visit. Solo trips. Experiences I had never taken because I had always been too busy funding Laura's desires. I looked up hobbies I had dropped over the years, things I had once loved but had abandoned because they didn't fit into Laura's world. And most importantly, I booked a consultation with a lawyer. Because while Laura was out in Hawaii, drinking overpriced cocktails on my dime, I was making sure that when she got back, she wouldn't have a damn thing left to take from me. The breaking point. By the time the evening rolled around, my phone was back on, sitting on the table next to me. Buzzing. Vibrating. Relentless. And then, a final voicemail from Laura. I let it sit for a moment before pressing play. Her voice came through the speaker, shaking. Not angry this time. Scared. Mark, please. I'm sorry. Okay? I know I screwed up. I shouldn't have done this. But I was just trying to have a good time with my family. I never meant to hurt you. Can we just talk? I don't want to lose you. I stared at the phone. It was too late. She wasn't sorry she did it. She was sorry she got caught. I deleted the voicemail. Then, without hesitation, I blocked her number. And as I leaned back, sipping my drink, letting the quiet settle over me, I realized something. For the first time in 6 years, I was truly, completely free. The next morning, I woke up feeling lighter. Like a weight I hadn't even realized I'd been carrying had finally been lifted. For 6 years, I had been running in circles, trying to make Laura happy, trying to meet her never-ending expectations, trying to be enough. And in one weekend, I had finally stopped running. I stretched, exhaling deeply, letting the silence of my home settle around me. It was a different kind of silence than before. Not empty, not lonely, just peaceful. I glanced at my phone, expecting the usual barrage of missed calls and messages. But for the first time in days, nothing. No texts, no voicemails, nothing. A smirk pulled at my lips. So that's where we were now. The panic phase was over. Now came the guilt trip. I could already hear the conversations happening behind the scenes. Just ignore him for a while, Laura. He'll crack. He's just angry. Give him space, and he'll come crawling back. Mark's always been the reasonable one. He'll come to his senses eventually. They still thought I was the same idiot I had been for 6 years. The man who had ignored every red flag. The man who had accepted being used, disrespected, and discarded. The man who had funded Laura's life without ever asking for anything in return. They were waiting for me to be the one to reach out, to apologize, to beg, to fix it. But this time, I wasn't fixing a damn thing. Cleaning house. I got up, made coffee, and stood in the kitchen, looking around. For the first time, I really saw my house. My house. Not ours. Mine. For years, Laura had filled it with things she loved. Decorations I never liked, expensive furniture she picked out, stacks of shopping bags from stores I'd never set foot in. Everything was catered to her taste, her wants. And now that I was looking at it through fresh eyes, I realized I didn't like any of it. So, I made a decision. I spent the next few hours cleaning. Not just the normal kind of cleaning, real cleaning, the kind of cleaning that erases someone from your life. I grabbed a trash bag and started going through the house, picking up anything that screamed Laura. The useless decorative pillows she had insisted on buying? Gone. The overpriced candles she never actually lit? Gone. The ridiculous wall art she swore made the house feel classy? Gone. By the time I was done, the house felt different. Lighter. Freer. Like I had finally made room for myself. I took a deep breath, standing in the middle of my newly reclaimed space. And for the first time in years, I felt at home. The first sign of regret. Later that evening, I was sitting on the couch, watching a game, when my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. But I already knew who it was. Laura. She had gone silent all day, but clearly, she had reached the point where ignoring me wasn't working. So now she was trying a new angle. The message was short. I drove by the house today. It looks different. Did you throw my things away? I stared at the screen. She wasn't mad. She wasn't accusing me of being petty. She was shocked, because she never expected me to actually move on. I thought about responding, but instead, I just deleted the message. She didn't deserve a response. She didn't deserve anything from me. The lawyer's call. The next morning, my phone rang. I answered without checking the ID, expecting another attempt from Laura or her family. But instead, a calm, professional voice came through. Mr. Carter? This is Daniel Roberts. I just finished reviewing your case. We're ready to proceed with the divorce paperwork whenever you are. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. Perfect. What's the next step? He explained the process, filing the paperwork, serving Laura, dividing assets. But the best part? I had been smart. The house was in my name. The majority of the accounts were in my name. Laura had no legal claim to anything besides the car, which, thanks to my adjustments, was now her financial burden. She had walked into this marriage with nothing, and now she was walking out with even less. I set up a meeting with the lawyer for later in the week, then hung up, feeling an unfamiliar sensation settle over me. Relief. Not doubt. Not guilt. Not second-guessing. Just pure relief. Laura's final attempt. By the time evening rolled around, I had expected Laura to reach out again. And sure enough, right as the sun was setting, a call. Not from an unknown number this time. It was her. I let it ring, debating whether I should even pick up. But something in me wanted to hear what she had to say. So I answered. Mark. Her voice was small, weak, like she had finally run out of options. Can we talk? I leaned back, exhaling slowly. Talk about what, Laura? A pause. Then, in the softest voice I had ever heard from her. Us. Our marriage. I don't want to lose you. I almost laughed. Now she cared? Now that the money was gone? Now that she had no safety net? Now that she was actually feeling what it was like to be left behind? I didn't respond right away. I let her sit in the silence, let her feel what it was like to not be answered right away, to not be prioritized, to not have me bend over backward for her. And then I finally said, Laura, the best thing you ever did for me was leaving me at that airport. I could hear her inhale sharply. Please, Mark, let's just meet and talk. Just once. I closed my eyes, already knowing my answer. No, Laura, we're done. Then I hung up, blocked her number, and just like that, I was free. The next morning, I woke up to a sky so clear it almost felt like a sign. Like the universe was confirming what I already knew. I had made the right decision. For the first time in years, I wasn't waking up with anxiety sitting heavy on my chest. There was no need to check my phone first thing. No need to brace myself for whatever drama Laura had stirred up overnight, because she was no longer my problem. I got up, stretched, and took my time making breakfast. Something simple, just eggs and toast. The kind of breakfast Laura used to scoff at because it wasn't Instagram-worthy. I never realized how much of my life had been dictated by her preferences, even something as small as breakfast. But now I was eating what I wanted, in a house that finally felt like mine, with no one around to make me feel like I wasn't enough. And it was perfect. The unexpected visitor. I was halfway through my coffee when there was a knock at the door. A hard, urgent knock. I already knew who it was before I even stood up. I took my time walking to the door, exhaling as I grabbed the handle. Then I pulled it open. And there she was. Laura. She looked different. Not the perfectly polished version of her I was used to. No flawless makeup. No expensive outfit carefully chosen to make a statement. She looked stressed, tired, even a little lost. Good. For the first time, she was feeling what I had felt for years. I leaned against the door frame, arms crossed. What do you want, Laura? She hesitated, biting her lip. Can I come in? I didn't move, didn't step aside. No. Her eyes flickered with something. Annoyance? Frustration? Maybe even desperation. Mark, please. We need to talk. I sighed, shaking my head. No, Laura. You need to talk. I already said everything I needed to say. She exhaled sharply, running a hand through her hair. Can we just sit somewhere? Anywhere? She swallowed hard. I don't want this to end like this. I almost laughed at that. Like this? I repeated, my voice cool. Laura, the way this is ending, you chose this. The second you left me standing in that airport like an idiot while you and your family took a trip on my dime. You ended this marriage. She looked down, shifting on her feet. I know. I messed up. I arched a brow. You messed up? That's what you're calling it. Her eyes snapped up, and I saw the first flash of anger. Mark, I already said I'm sorry. What else do you want from me? There it was. The real Laura. She wasn't here because she regretted what she had done. She was here because she regretted the consequences. I straightened, dropping my arms from my chest. I don't want anything from you, Laura. That's the point. She blinked, looking almost thrown, like she hadn't expected that, like she thought there was still something left to manipulate. I stepped back, gripping the edge of the door. Go home, Laura. She shook her head quickly. Mark, please, don't do this. I know I hurt you. But we've been together for 6 years. Are you really willing to throw all that away? I let out a slow breath. Laura, I'm not throwing anything away. You did that for both of us the moment you decided I wasn't worth the truth. The moment you decided I was just a wallet instead of a husband. Her mouth opened, but I didn't wait for whatever excuse she was about to spit out. I shut the door. Firm. Final. Done. Breaking the cycle. After that, the silence in my house felt different. Not just peaceful. Stronger. Because for the first time, I had actually chosen myself. Laura had spent years making me feel like I had to earn love, like I had to keep proving I was worthy of her attention, her affection, her approval. But love wasn't supposed to be something you earned. It was supposed to be given freely. And Laura? She had never given me anything. She had only ever taken. The lawyer's meeting. The next day, I sat across from my lawyer, Daniel, as he finalized the last of the paperwork. So, just to confirm, he said, sliding the last document toward me, you want to file for divorce under irreconcilable differences? I smirked. That's a polite way to put it. He chuckled, nodding. Fair enough. Given the financial records we've gathered, she won't be able to claim spousal support. And since the house is in your name, she won't get a dime from the sale. If she tries to contest it, she'll be in for a fight she won't win. I exhaled, a weight lifting off my chest. Perfect. Let's file it. He nodded and started gathering the documents. Once she's served, she'll have 30 days to respond. If she doesn't contest it, we can finalize everything within a few months. I nodded, standing up and shaking his hand. Thanks, Daniel. I appreciate everything. He gave me a knowing look. You're doing the right thing, Mark. And for the first time in a long time, I believed it. Laura's last desperate move. That night, as I sat on my couch, I got a text from an unknown number. I sighed, already knowing who it was. Mark, I just got the divorce papers. Please, can we talk? Just one last time. I stared at the message for a long moment. Then, I deleted it. No response. No hesitation. No regret. I leaned back, a small smirk tugging at my lips. For 6 years, Laura had controlled everything. But now, I was the one calling the shots. The morning after I ignored Laura's last text, I woke up feeling something I hadn't felt in years, light. Like I had finally unshackled myself from a burden I didn't even realize had been weighing me down. I stretched, exhaling slowly, feeling a calm that had been foreign to me for too long. No more waking up to Laura's endless complaints. No more checking my phone first thing in the morning only to see a list of demands disguised as requests. For the first time in 6 years, my life was mine again. I grabbed a cup of coffee and stepped out onto the back patio. The morning air was crisp, the sun rising lazily over the horizon. It felt different now, more vibrant, more real. And yet, despite the peace, a small part of me wondered, would Laura finally give up? Or was she planning one last desperate move? The final attempt. I got my answer later that afternoon. I had just finished lunch when my phone rang. Blocked number. I sighed, already knowing exactly who it was. I debated letting it go to voicemail, but something in me was curious. So I answered. Mark. Her voice was quiet, careful. I know you don't want to hear from me, but can we just talk? I let out a slow breath, shaking my head. We don't have anything left to talk about, Laura. Silence. Then, her voice broke just slightly. I don't want a divorce. I closed my eyes, pinching the bridge of my nose. Of course, she had fought me, ignored me, insulted me, used me. But now that the reality of losing me was settling in, she was suddenly realizing what she had thrown away. I stayed quiet, waiting for her to continue. I know I messed up, Mark. I know I hurt you. But isn't marriage supposed to be about forgiveness? About second chances? I let out a humorless chuckle. Laura, if this was your first betrayal, maybe. But this was the final straw in a long list of lies, manipulation, and selfishness. You don't get to play the victim now. She inhaled sharply, like I had slapped her. I wasn't. She stopped herself, then sighed. I don't know how to do this without you, Mark. There it was. The real reason she was fighting this. Not because she loved me. Not because she regretted what she had done, but because she didn't know how to function without me paying for everything. I clenched my jaw, letting the truth settle between us before finally responding. You should have thought about that before you made me nothing more than your personal ATM. Her breath hitched, and for a second, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Then I remembered the way she had left me at that airport, the way she had laughed by the pool, drinking cocktails on my dime, while I stood humiliated in a crowded terminal. And just like that, the last of my sympathy died. Goodbye, Laura. And then, I hung up. The divorce goes public. Over the next few days, things were quiet. Too quiet. Laura had gone silent. No more calls, no more texts. At first, I thought she had finally accepted reality. Then, I started getting messages. From friends. From coworkers. From mutual acquaintances. Dude, Laura posted some long sob story about you leaving her. Says she's heartbroken and blindsided. Is everything okay? Bro, I know it's none of my business, but Laura's been telling everyone you're divorcing her over a simple misunderstanding. That true? Mark, I just saw Laura's post. I don't know what to believe, but if you ever need to talk, I'm here. I sighed, rubbing my temples. Of course, she wasn't done yet. She couldn't control me anymore, so she was trying to control the narrative. I opened my phone, scrolling through social media until I found it. A long, emotional post from Laura. A photo of us on our wedding day, captioned, 6 years of love, laughter, and building a life together. Gone in the blink of an eye. I never imagined I'd be waking up alone, wondering where it all went wrong. I miss you, Mark. I wish you'd just talk to me. Below it, hundreds of comments. Some supportive, some confused, and some furious. Wait, what happened? You guys were perfect together. OMG, Mark is leaving you? What did he do? I don't understand. How does someone just walk away after 6 years? I clenched my jaw, my grip tightening on my phone. She was painting herself as the heartbroken victim. And I was the heartless husband who had abandoned her for no reason. Setting the record straight, I took a deep breath, debating if I should ignore it. But no, this was my story too, and I wasn't letting her rewrite it. So I typed, for everyone reaching out, let me make something clear. I didn't walk away from my marriage. I walked away from being used, lied to, and taken advantage of for 6 years. Laura didn't lose me. She threw me away when she left me standing in an airport, alone, while she took a trip I paid for. One she never planned on including me in. If you want to know where it all went wrong, ask her. Then, I hit post. And waited. The fallout. It didn't take long before the comments section exploded. People who had blindly supported Laura started asking questions. People who had doubted her started connecting the dots. And Laura? She went silent. Because there was nothing left for her to say. The truth was out. Her manipulation, her greed, her betrayal. All of it laid bare for the world to see. And just like that, Laura finally realized something. She had lost. Not just me. Not just the marriage. But the lie she had built.